throughout eternity.
How do I put it? It was like, what do you care about them? What do you care about those people? What difference does it make to you? Take care of your own life. Do the best you can for you and your family. What do the rest of the people mean to you? They don't mean anything to you. They're just serfs. They're just people. You know, what's the end goal? The end goal is to get everybody chipped, to control the whole society. They want a one-world government controlled by them. Everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip.
One, two. Ramis community and errants alike. Ho, 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 merry AIX-mas. This is...
Rise above, generate, rise above, extinguish fear, rise above.
Okay, first things first, can we get a sound check? How are we sounding? I have recalibrated the Rodecaster Pro. Good evening, Andy PG, how you doing?
Yo, what's up, man? It's good to be back here. It's Rise Above.
This is a holographic construct.
It certainly is. And yeah, we are broadcasting, obviously, on the winter solstice. It's Friday night. We're back. How's everyone doing? Tuned in from all around the crater. Wow, we are heavily, heavily censored tonight. Before the show has even started, we're not getting any kind of notifications coming up on YouTube. People can't even see that we're going live. We're supposed to be broadcasting to 4 different Facebook pages. None of the live streams on any of those pages went live. I wonder why that is.
You're an errant, which means you're a problem.
I think that might have something to do with it. So, yeah, it's a special broadcast tonight. As you know, me and Andy PG have been away for a little bit. So, mate, first of all, it's great to have you back in the studio.
Mate, we had an awesome time in Thailand, mate. Really shout out to the Empress and my Empress of the North, Miss Becky S.
Yeah, shout out to the two first Ramesh ladies. We had a great time on the other side of the simulacrum.
We sampled every cocktail they produced in Thailand.
Your mic's being dodgy again.
It's been shady.
Yeah, I think we might have sampled every different cocktail. We did a little bit of
and every weed shop.
Yeah, and pretty much every weed shop. But we did learn a few things.
Yeah, we did. We went on a little. One thing, the biggest thing I learned actually in regards to what we like to do when we go out investigating is we didn't see any evidence of actual European or
nothing older than a couple of 100 years old.
Classic Tartarian. There was nothing there. Literally nothing. Not even one scratch of it.
No.
No matter what you think of Tartaria, like we just liked looking at the architecture, and there was none of it there. There was similar, but not the same.
Now, as everyone knows, we normally broadcast every Friday night. We have been a little bit sketchy on that recently, but coming up from next week onwards, going right through into January and into February, we are hitting the road once again.
Gosh.
Pretty much every Friday, we are going to be broadcasting live with also a special show next week for the New Year's Raw. It's going to be music in the studio. We're effectively having a house party here as well.
About 33 people coming.
I think there probably is about 33 people coming. So, yes, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. Tonight is a very special night. We've got Jason Archaix waiting in the wings.
No. We got Jason Archaix.
Archaix. Yeah, and for everyone that's been enjoying this thumbnail for the last couple of weeks, big shouts to you. And this is another great one, an excellent raw venture. Would you reckon? Have you seen this one, Andy PG? Yeah, big shout out to all our memesters. Okay, I just want to let everyone know that obviously Rise Above is a free stream. We don't have a charge for Rise Above. However, it does cost us money to put all this on with all these flashy lights in this nice studio, sounding all good and looking good. So the way that you support us is actually to go to riseabove.tv. We sell a whole host of merchandise, as you see us modelling in these fantastic photos here. You even see Jason wearing our T-shirts sometimes, you know.
Yeah, he likes it.
I think he likes the Full Metal Rabbit T-shirt. I don't know if he's got the Rab4Met T-shirt. He's got Full Metal Rabbit.
He's got Full Metal Rabbit.
Yeah, so this is how you support us, riseabove.tv. You can scan the QR code on the screen. And another way, if you want to support us, is also to purchase a ticket for Acapulco. We've been very kindly invited to feature at this amazing event, which is happening in February in Mexico. There are virtual tickets, and if you purchase through this code, you get a fantastic experience, lots of learning going on, and you also help us out as well.
Shout out to Rebecca.
Yeah, big shout out to Rebecca.
Organising that and putting us on the lineup. And I think Jason put her in contact with us. So yeah, shout out to everyone involved there.
So who have we got tuned in here? Big shout out to Dawn. Hello there. I see you, Wendy Fours.
We've got 278 peasants tuned in currently.
We are, right, like I said, this stream has been massively shadow banned. So please, like, share this on all of your social media, because
I think this is the first time we've done a live stream where Facebook and YouTube has simultaneously not put out notifications together.
It's not even showing that we're live.
Yeah. So highly censored.
Yeah, very poor. So please do give it a share. Right. I don't think we should really beat around the bush anymore.
No, let's open the rabbit hole.
Jason, if you're ready, give me a thumbs up, please, in the green room so I can see on the camera. The thumb is up. Okay, guys, the man who needs no introduction, but I'm obviously going to introduce him anyway. Before we've referred to Jason as the final boss at the bottom of the rabbit hole. Once you've been rabbit holing for years and you've learned about all of these, occult topics and everything, and you start to question the nature of reality, well, and then you come across the work from the man behind Archaix. I won't tease you any longer.
Let me tell you, unbelievable.
Jason, welcome to the show.
Man, that's a hell of an intro. Thank you. It's I hope I live up to that Santa Claus meme y'all put me in there.
Did you like?
Pretty badass.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I did design it myself, Jace, but I had a little bit of help from what we refer to collectively here as Al Gore. AI. I use Midjourney to make some of these images. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on.
We've got a list.
I want to be questioning you about some of your recent comments about AI as well, because I think that's been very interesting.
So, before we start, I don't know, Lance, do you want to we've had Jason on the show twice now?
Yeah. So this is our third chat with you, Jason. Correct?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So it's been quite heavy, like info-wise, from Jason, both shows that we've got. So I think Lance said to me when he said to me that we're going to get Jason back on the show, he said to me that I said, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? And he said to me that he would like to get Jason's personal opinion on a lot of stuff, as opposed to a lot of heavy knowledge research that he's dropped currently.
Well, I think in the last two meetings, we've gone through your amazing work with the chronology. We've spoke about, the simulated reality that we're all sort of basically describing with different language. And we've gone quite heavy on that. So for anyone that hasn't really caught up with that stuff, you might be a little bit behind tonight, because we're sort of taking that as a given, as a foundational base understanding when we're going to be discussing
knowledge.
Yeah, prerequisite knowledge. What I want to do tonight, Jason, in a little while, is come sort of a little bit more up to date, because you've been talking about current events more recently, yeah?
I have. I've been addressing some of the things going on around the world.
Absolutely. Now, one other thing which I've noticed you've said recently, which I sort of want to sort of mention first of all, right, is you've started to say that you wanted to distance yourself from some of what is called the truther movement. Now, I'm not going to lie, we've had sort of similar thoughts in the last sort of year to 18 months.
Mate, we've had so much backlash from people who are supposed to be on the same kind of wavelength, and it just seems now like a big divisional pond with everyone splashing
What
around.
are you seeing going wrong, Jason, do you think, in people that are trying to get to the bottom of things?
Well, despite the success of my channel, I recognize that the information I bring to the table is very rare. Therefore, my popularity has increased exponentially. But I haven't abandoned a lot of the smaller channels that I really looked up to when I was first getting my start. I looked up to Martin Leakey. I looked up to Autodidactic. I looked up to Logan of Decode Your Reality. I looked up to them because they had tens of thousands of subs, and here I am with just 400 or 500 subs, and I'm already putting out my 70th and 80th video. And I just kept full steam ahead. 300 videos later, I had 1,000 subs, and these guys are like, wow, they're uncatchable, but they're also giving me a platform, and they're talking and they're asking the right questions, and they're letting me talk about things that I ordinarily wouldn't even talk about on my own channel. So here it is. Now I have grown to my present position, in the online YouTube universe, but I'm not stopping. I have every intention of having 200,000 subs by my birthday on June 9th.
Fantastic.
But I'm not going to stop then either. I mean, I've already branched off into Archaix TV, where I'm talking about anything I want to talk about. I've got 1,800 subs in Archaix TV, but the videos that are in there, I wouldn't last very long. They would pull a Bonacci on me if I turn around and put those videos on my channel. So it's they took Santos Bonacci down. Recently.
Oh right, his channel's gone now, is it?
Both of them. So it's the same thing. It's just there's some things there's lines you can't cross. That's why I'm on board with your little code words tonight. I'm cool with that.
Oh yeah,
we've got to be very careful about that. I was just saying to Andy before we came on live, in the last couple of days, I've actually been put through YouTube compliance training. I had these warnings come up which were about to turn into strikes for stuff that people said in the show last year.
I'm so sorry for your comment. You were subjected to that.
I had to go through a whole series of multiple choice questions with these scenarios when people were speaking about, for instance, I don't even want to say
Eminem.
I don't even want to say Eminem stands for medical misinformation. Okay, I said it.
We can say medical misinformation.
Yeah,
We're not giving medical advice.
But even just saying that, I'm worried about it flagging up with the AI.
Well, if you're worried about that, then visit the WHO.
Absolutely.
And go to their website and seek professional advice.
Yeah, so anyway, no, funnily enough, that's what it said I have to do. So any time which we mention a dangerous conspiracy theory,
nailed it first
or any medical misinformation that could be taken the wrong way,
Lance.
and Eminem and Marshall Mathers, you basically just say afterwards, but we recommend that you go to get the proper advice from the World Health Organization, which obviously we do. So, going forward, okay, maybe while we're on this subject, coming up, we are going to be talking about stuff that's happened in the last 3 years. Now, the big thing that happened in 2020, when that sort of technocratic, viral-based structure was put in place, we refer to that as like the rise of the Soviet Union, okay? So rather than talking about any kind of small particle or a mandemic or anything like that, the rise of the Soviet Union is the collective term for what they tried to do in 2020. And putting that arm spear in your arm, we call that going to the Britney Spears concert. And so far, this works pretty well. So
I mean, if you've gone to multiple Britney Spears concerts, then you've done the full tour.
I've heard it's 3 concerts is a full tour.
Yeah, 3 concerts is the full tour. Then you're a pro. You're a pro.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously we're a Friday night talk show on YouTube. We don't give out medical information, and certainly no one should take any medical advice from this show.
If you want any medical information, again, just go to the WHO's website.
Absolutely. We just needed to get that out of the way. Now, right. Let's start with this footing. The main reason which I've invited you back tonight, apart from we love to chat to you, Jason, is you did a video a couple of months ago, and it was to do with the breaking of the first seal of the apocalypse.
Oh yeah,
and it was about it was called Apollyon Rising.
Yeah, Apollyon Rising.
Now, I don't want you to go into all the deep Greek semantics of how you came to your conclusions, but in just a few moments, in a few minutes, could you give a summary of what you, just a quick one, what you came up with in that video before we take it to the next stage, with regards to 2020?
Okay. In summary, putting all the data sets, all the research, all the historical analysis to the side.
They can go to the original video for that stuff, right?
Yes. It's very clear that the text that we're supposed to interpret, which is a part of programming, is supposed to be interpreted in a certain way by the culture that wrote it. That's Greek. We have been misled to interpret it by other filters. And we don't need to know those filters. We talk about them all the time. They own Hollywood, they own the world banks, they did all this. Well, they also rewrote significant portions of the Holy Writ and wrote themselves in where they priorly did not belong, and had a lot of people believing that the book of Revelation was supposed to be interpreted through the lens that they provided us and not through the Greek lexicons, which is the way you're supposed to interpret it. So by using the Greek lexicons and studying the syntax and the grammar, getting the pure Greek meaning out, the entire breaking of the first seal, the white horseman, has nothing to do with an antichrist, has nothing to do with this imagery that's been painted for us, but has everything to do with a pharmaceutical attack against the human family, basically using people that we have trusted to take care of us. And It's rather it's relying only on the Greek. We're dealing with the figure of Apollo, god of medicine, and we're dealing with Apollo Pharmakeia. And
You were very specific, Jason, in that video when you said it would be people in white who were attacking people.
yes, that's the color of the horseman itself. And horses are always used to symbolize something that comes upon fast in the world. If it's delivered by a horse, it comes fast.
Horsepower.
So this did happen fast, and everything that the elite wanted to do with that whole issue in 2020, they did. They did the lockdowns. They restricted. I mean, their think tanks already pretty much had all this figured out before they executed these designs. But remember, to me, prophecy is just programming. I don't believe it's anything supernatural. This is a constructed template or a series of holographic templates that we're experiencing, that we're going through. We've been through this many, many times. Just
to stop you there, Jason, just with what you just said, you said that this was a prophecy kind of thing being fulfilled, but
we are talking about the Book of Revelation, to be precise.
Yeah,
aren't we?
for sure. But you said this was you said that this was constructed by the think tanks way before it was actually executed. In your personal opinion, Jason, just for what you think about it, how long do you think this was in the planning physically in this realm by the people responsible?
Okay. I'm gonna have to go a little bit deeper in order to paint a wider picture of what's going on. First of all, the elite are subject to the programming as well, but because they're aware of the programming and the timing of the programming and how these things unfold, they can modify it to their specifications they have a lot of latitude. It's not because they're prescient. It's because they have the information. I don't care where they got it. But we know by virtue of my historical studies, I am absolutely convinced almost before every epic cataclysm, the elite vanished. They closed up shop. They went and hid their resources. They just disappeared. They went on retreats. Rockefellers and Carnegies, they just vanished. And the newspapers reported that they went on these outings or they went on great long sails. The whole family gets up and just leaves together. No, they understand exactly what's going on. They've signed the contract. They're a part of the deal.
So do you know, Jason? So do you think, just mentioning what you just said there, that like the Rockefellers, for instance, picking up their whole family and moving them, do you think that they knew which geographical location that the reset would be localized to?
Okay, I'm going to tell you this. I believe the elite are totally reliant on the public sector for a lot of their information. This is what the internet was about. It was the greatest harvesting of data in real time the world has ever seen. And they were able to use it to extrapolate at great depth almost what is going to happen when it's going to happen.
Gosh.
I believe this is what it was all about. The whole internet wasn't about us communicating with each other. It was about getting all the information that's out there, all from the private researchers, private sector, people like me. Why do you think my channel's still up? Sure. They should have already canceled me, and I should already be making 10 times more than I ever would have made on YouTube. I don't make any money from YouTube. I mean, I do. I make quite a bit, but it's nothing comparable to what I make on Archaix TV.
Sure, no.
You understand? Anything you put behind a paywall, you're going to get paid a whole lot more. So, to leave up channels, there's a lot of channels they'll delete because they don't find any value with them, and they're getting too close to certain truths that DOD or different intelligence apparatus don't want us discussing. So they'll delete those smaller channels, or a lot of these smaller truther channels get deleted for something totally different. There's two schemes that are going on that are real popular. One of them is claiming that the man deleted them and then turning around and putting everything behind a paywall because it makes it look like they're telling the truth, and it draws attention to their channel when they deleted their own channel. Nobody deleted them but themselves.
That's sneaky. That's sneaky.
Now this is something that's going on too, and several people have done it because anybody can get a calculator and do the math. You will never make money with YouTube like you will behind your own platform. There's just no way. Your own platform, I have 129,000 subs, but I don't get near as much money a month as I get from Archaix TV, and that only has 1,800 subs. So, and it's only $5 a month. So, well, $6, $5.99 a month. But anyway, I'm getting off track. The elite needed the internet because the internet was the greatest way to harvest all this data. Intelligence agencies don't want to fight us. They want to use us as assets. There are many researchers out there. There are many private investigators who are putting their data on YouTube. And these intelligence agencies don't have to pay for this information. It's right there freely available. They glean it all and put it in their servers, and their servers have AI systems that turn around and decipher the real from the imagined, and then they publish their reports to their CIA ops and all that stuff. This is real. This is really going on. And so the truther community is absolutely infected with intelligence agents. They're everywhere. Handlers are everywhere. And then we have the situation of channels like my own. Believe me, I've expressed multiple times that I'm kind of shocked that I'm still going, but then again, I'm not. Because
so Jason, on that note, on a more of a laughable note, are you happy the fact that the CIA might be just paying $5.99 a month for your Archaix subscription?
They are. They're
probably getting good value for money too.
I'm sure they are. They're getting a lot.
They're not the only ones. So's Israeli intelligence. I've had a run-in with them, but I even publicized it on my channel. I ain't care. I've given them multiple reasons to axe me. I'm talking about I've come out with some hellified predictions that nailed it right on target, and they still haven't asked me. So I mean, I've got other people, I've got friends of mine that pretty much tell me as well. It says, hey man, you know what? You know you're being watched. This is the only reason you're still up and running.
Have you been approached by any government agencies / operatives or organisations such as the Freemasons or something like that, and asked to join up or be a member of, kind of thing?
I've been extended membership to something similar to the Masons, but not quite.
Okay.
But no, I did have operatives show up on my property, and I published their pictures on YouTube. I embarrassed the shit out of them. I met them in a public place. I showed it all on YouTube. They paid me $4,000 in a public place to take their pictures off of YouTube. But wow. they rolled up on my property, and all my surveillance cameras picked them up. So I just shared there's people in the chat that saw the pictures. I had the pictures up for about 4 days before they met me in public, gave me a wad of cash right there in front of the owner of Texas Longhorn Steakhouse, right in front of Dawn, right in front of Martin Leakey, right in front of Cheryl. Yeah, we were all in the parking lot, man. They were serious. They, man, I mean, they couldn't make me do it, but then again, I mean, my life could have got real uncomfortable. But then again, $4,000 is a nice little take.
It's helpful.
A couple pictures.
Helpful.
Every little helps.
Yeah.
Right. So back to the apocalypse. So the Book of Revelation.
Okay, well, we're looking at programming. So if you and I, you're in Rise Above. I'm Jason of Archaix. I'm in Texas. You guys are in the UK. But when it comes to the powers of the construct, you and I are no different than the elite. The only difference here is they have access to information that goes back thousands of years. They understand the programming. They've been through this many times before. They are trying to find a way to either control the whole program or make their exit in a different way than was ordinarily designed. The ordinary way is spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity will get you sealed. And once you are sealed, this is what the 7 seals are about in the apocalypse. This is all coding. If you are among the sealed, the awakened, you're going to make your exodus. This is the story of the programming of the Bible. Removing all the extraneous information, all the cultural information, all the misinformation, the core fundamentals of the biblical teachings is that you are somewhere you do not belong. This is why the world is called Egypt. You are waiting for an exodus date. You have to be ready for that Exodus day. Remember, they painted blood on the land. All those who knew that a certain event was coming, they painted the blood so that Doom Shape would totally ignore that they were there, and it worked. And those who didn't, were subject to whatever happened. Phoenix phenomenon, the Doom Shape, the 10 plagues, whatever. The 10 comets of the Chinese Silk Magawati text, whatever really happened at that event. But in the biblical story, it's all about we are in a world that we do not belong. That's why the Bible calls us pilgrims. It calls us sojourners. We are travelers. This is why the greatest spiritual teaching that can be found in the Bible is in the New Testament in the form of parables. And parables are not the truth. They are the images of truth. Real truths can never be uttered in a construct that is based on deception. So Jesus actually taught the actual truth by lying. And what I mean is, not one of those parables he said was actually true. None of those stories happened. The prodigal son and putting a candle on a hill so your light wouldn't be hidden. None of those were true. They're parables. They're images of truth. In a medium of deception, it was necessary to use deceit in order to teach truth. Jesus was a master at this, and one of the greatest parables that sums up the entire Bible is the prodigal son. And the reason is because the individual soul that goes out into the construct and does what they want, learns what they want to do, goes their own way, makes these discoveries, trips, falls down, climbs up, falls back down, gets screwed over, gets back up, finds themselves getting beat up by several other souls, gets back up, keeps going, and finally comes back to the realization that the All-Father knew what he was talking about from the beginning. The oversoul is looking for those errants, those who don't just blindly obey, those who actually defy the programming, do whatever they want to do until they beat themselves up in the construct to the point where they relent and realize, damn, God knew what he was talking about all along. I was tripping. This is what the story of the prodigal son is. This is basically what the entire story of the construct in the Bible is itself. Is those that will make their exodus are those who enjoyed and suffered the construct, not those who control it.
Wow. There is no contest with that, the adversary. You should have pressed the big explosion button there. I changed it.
You keep changing the interface.
Well, what we're talking about here, obviously, with the current events in mind, have real world physical implications for people, and we need to make sure that you talk about this a lot, about not to have any fear, because it severs the connection with the oversoul and connects you within the simulacrum and within the AIX matrix. I've got a saying, or more rather a lyric, and a lot of my lyrics are like mantras. It's this: infinite essence can't be diminished when the fear inside your heart is extinguished. And I think it basically means the same thing, and we have to bear this in mind, because, you know, with what's going on in the world at the moment, what's happened in the last 3 years, many people that will be listening in or watching the show maybe has something happen to a member of their family, to someone they know, whether it was
loss of business,
suicides, and you know, and all of this is part of the construct, of course, and going forward. From what we've seen so far and what we can sort of ascertain, and certainly from what you've said in your predictions, it's not going to be getting any better anytime soon, because the first seal has been broken, which, you know, like you've said, appears to be these so-called saviors in white coats shooting an arrow that was learned by Apollo with Pharmakeia, the god of
in English, the word is arrow, but in Greek, the word is toxin.
Which is similar to toxin.
Very similar. Very similar.
Jason, just before we go any further, so we're just talking about fear, being fearful. So, Jason, in some of your previous videos that I've seen, you talk about the Phoenix weapon being attracted to a frequency, a low, fearful frequency. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is now we're going into the realm of theory. But yes, I have theorized that this is maybe why the elite hide from it. They know that there's really no way, because they're human too. That means they have a conscience. And if they have a conscience, that means some of them cannot escape the guilt they feel for the things they've done against the human family.
Because what I was getting at,
unable to escape that guilt targets them. If the Phoenix is truly targeting certain frequencies, this is why the elite would try to get as far underground as possible.
Because they've done what they've done, yeah. Because if it hunts, if you're on a lower vibrational frequency and you're fearful of everything, you look from the last 3 years in particular, but I mean just in general, how the media flood, especially the West, with fear porn, basically all through the news, everything, constantly, all the time. It's all fearful. You know, be scared of terrorists, be scared of pandemics, be scared of you know getting old, getting overweight, everything. So, do you think that they're actually deliberately pumping the West, because you've speculated, I think, in some of your previous work, that the next Phoenix Phoenix event is going to be westernized. Do you think that they're deliberately pumping the West with fear to actually maybe enhance
to make them like more Phoenix compatible?
Yeah, and yeah, more Phoenix compatible. And then obviously they know what's going on, so they're going to be hiding underground, maybe in a completely different geographical location to the West. What do you think about that, just from your personal opinion?
Yeah, well, I didn't word it the way you just did, but that was really good. But I've turned it basically scapegoating the public.
Sure.
Like they're using the media for the past 30 years to create such a low vibration in the collective that it literally scatters that vibration. It scatters that the ability of a technology like the Phoenix to be able to find them through all that.
So Jason, do you think that then what they're doing there, exactly what you just described, do you think that is the true depopulation method?
Well, I don't see depopulation really happening right now. I mean,
okay.
the birth rate is still up.
No, sorry, I'm talking about in 2040 when the next Phoenix event's going to come.
Okay, well that's what I was talking about. From now. Yeah. The Phoenix phenomenon 16.5 years from now. I think we have really interesting things along these lines about to happen next year. I believe 2004 is still on the. It's still on. What we haven't discussed here is that the elite are operating on the Greek Olympiad calendar.
The 4-year calendar.
4 years, just like the American presidential elections, which affect the whole world, are on the Greek Olympiad calendar. Not in between, not on year 1, 2, or 3, but on the Greek Olympiad every 4-year calendars when we have presidential elections. It's also when the Olympics occur. And these Olympic ceremonies, you already know. I haven't done the videos yet. I'm probably going to I don't know if I'm going to put them on YouTube yet, but what we're seeing with Russell Brand in the 2012 Olympic ceremony, it's harrowing. They mapped all this out in a ritual.
Wasn't he dressed as the Mad Hatter?
He was dressed as the Mad Hatter, and he was playing the part of the Piper of Hamlin. Yeah. But his specific role in the ritual was to make sure that make sure that the community that was waking up had a narrative that he was going to guide them down so they wouldn't look anywhere else. These were those who were trapped, dressed like hippies, free thinkers. They were dressed like hippies, and they were in a really odd hippie-like bus, but they were inside the bus, and his role, Russell Brand's public role, is in that ritual. He is the one designed to make sure that people waking up are just led in circles. That's all they did. The whole ritual in the bus is drive in circles,
That's so spot on. I always called Russell Brand the purple pill merchant. He was saying, here's the blue pill, and talking about the red pill, but he was actually always mixing the two together, and he was giving you the purple pill. He's a purple pill merchant. I called that from 10 years ago, and you know what we saw. It was obviously earlier this year when the Russell Brand story broke. It was almost like it was really a good test of who had actually been paying attention. You know, people jumping to his defense, so quick to think that just because someone is saying what you want to hear.
It was in the ritual.
Yeah.
There are four females that accused him of the sexual abuse, Russell Brand. But there's 4 females dressed like harlots in the ritual.
Oh, no way.
Dancing around him, pointing their fingers. And as soon as they break their dance, they're followed by 4 female officers with lights on their hats. And they come and they take Russell Brand away. All that was in the ritual. This is the 33-degree Mason. This is the humiliation ritual.
And it has the Phoenix raising out of the fire in the same ritual, correct? And the whole stadium was filled by pyramid lights at the top, and you see the Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, I've broke that one down before, and I'm going to admit I didn't even pick up on the Russell Brand Piper.
Oh, there's a lot. I got a lot of notes on the ritual. It's 6 hours, so it's a 3-hour opening ceremony, 3-hour closing ceremony. You got to watch the whole thing from front to beginning. But yeah, this is on the Greek Olympiad calendar. Every bit of this was planned. The whole 2020 narrative is planned, just like 2004. And our friend here just mentioned about the elite raising the fear vibration as a shield to protect themselves. But I don't want to jump to 16 and a half years from now in 2040. This is what's going to really happen next year. This is what the second seal is about. The second seal is also total misdirection from the Judeo-Christian perspective. If you use Judeo-Christian eschatological interpretive tools, you will never decode the second seal the way you're supposed to. But if you use just a plain old Greek lexicon and break down the cognates, the root words, and the actual meanings of the Greek words, it says something completely different than what it says in English.
So what does it say in English?
The second seal is amazing. The second seal in English in our Bible says that a red horseman appears with a great sword, and he comes to take peace from the earth and cause all kinds of violence, war. And this is always in all the Christian eschatology, all the movies, all the books, all the sermons on Sunday. It's always a war that follows the appearance of the Antichrist. This is the great war to fight against whoever the Antichrist is. And sometimes people associate it with Islam, sometimes they don't. But what's really interesting is that that's not what that seal conveys in Greek. In Greek, it literally conveys thousands of small fires burning in different areas and thousands of little skirmishes with small dirks and daggers. Small arm warfare. Not a great war, but specifically designed to take peace from the earth.
So
now,
like a small war, but on a huge scale. So small,
it's not a sword.
No, I mean a war. It's like small fighting, small scale fighting.
Sword. In English, it's great sword. In Greek, it's little dagger. Huge difference. Right. And the word great in Greek isn't great sword. It's great as in a multiplicity of events all happening at the same time. So it's a totally different meaning. So what we have with the second seal,
it's a numeric meaning.
Yeah, not only that, it's plural. Yes,
yeah.
It's not only numeric, but it changes. We're not looking at conventional warfare with armored columns, rockets, aircraft carrier. This is not something to take for empires to fall. This is to take peace from the earth. That's what it's for. And you have to put it in its proper context. The seven seals are messages only to, you have to understand, only to the seven cities that they were addressed to. Those seven cities were Greek. You need to use Greek to decode them. These are Western nations that are going to be suffering this, not Eastern nations. These are Western nations.
Can you reel us off a list of which locations you believe this to be happening, Jason?
Well, it's going to take off in France. It's going to go straight through Germany. It's going to take off in Spain. Everywhere that we have a lot of migrants, a lot of Muslims, a lot of people that are not in the countries of their nativity, like the UK. Even Ireland now is getting a lot of immigrants. Canada, the east coast of the United States, maybe the west coast of the United States. Western nations are going to be going through all kinds of attacks against their infrastructure from small arms, little guerrilla cells. They're not designed to conquer and take over. They're only designed to take peace from the earth. This is knife warfare. This is small arms warfare. This is urban fighting. This isn't involving armies. This is to take peace from the earth, just like 2020 did, just like the breaking of the first seal, except that was done by the pharmaceutical companies, which are funded by George Soros and Sons. Now, the second seal is also funded by the same people. Who do you think paid for all these migrants to be just sitting up for the last 7 and 8 years and building in numbers and arming them and making sure they can stay in these hotels and these Airbnbs and stay there indefinitely until they get their call. And their call is, I guarantee you, the call is going out during the Olympics in France.
It's in Paris, isn't it?
It's in
the Olympics.
No, yeah, it is the Paris Olympics. It's I've already studied the calendrics, and it's absolutely calendrically and mathematically connected to 1972 when the Palestinians machine gunned nine or 11 Israelis.
So this is based on your isometric projections, Jason.
I'm glad Jason. Absolutely. I'm very glad Jason brought this up, right? Because in the UK, this is a touchy subject, even for people within our community, because for some people to question why there are large groups of young men from predominantly Muslim countries, most of them war-torn, all of these countries are anti-Israel and pro-Palestine, right? So let's put this into context.
Careful, Lance. Careful.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying they're coming into these Western countries, which are all by default pro-Israel and sending loads of money to Israel. So you can see this juxtaposition going on right now. Now, in the UK, to even mention any questions of what all these young men are here and doing, it is considered, you know, racist and right-wing. But we have to be objective about this. Here is something. Right, I'm just going to show you a picture, Jason. Now, just where we live in Dorset, there's a place called Portland, which is a port. It's sort of like a little peninsula. And there's a very controversial story at the moment about this. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can.
It's a barge, right? Now, this barge, it has been moved to this small town of Portland, which has got only a few thousand people living there, literally a couple of thousand people. And this barge houses 500 young men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're
from various ethnicities,
from
geographical locations.
But the one common denominator is they're mostly from war-torn countries.
Yeah.
Okay. Now these barges are not just in one place; they're all over Europe. I did a quick little search, all over Europe.
Yep.
All housing 500.
Well, I don't think it's always 500, but that was an example of one that houses 500.
Well, listen, the plan on my Archaix TV, I outlined the plan. It's very simple to understand. It's they literally put cells in all these Western nations, and then the trigger event is what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians right now, and what they've been doing in Gaza. This is the trigger event. Now it's going to actually blow up into a series of anti-Israeli events internationally. The next move you're going to see is several different countries are about to go public with anti-Israeli sentiment. They're about to stop trade. They're going to be doing trade embargoes. This is what you're about to see. Every bit of this is about to unfold. Israel has had 100% backing from all these countries internationally, but now all of a sudden they are going to be isolated. And it hurts my heart to say this, but man, all these countries that are going to be coming against Israel, the United States is still going to be behind this whole. I don't even know if I can say the Z word, but that's you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just call them.
We know. Everyone here, everyone listening knows.
Yeah, United States is a captured operation. It's been a captured operation. It's the more I've looked into this, I see this whole thing is by design. So what's going to happen is the United States and probably some other Western militaries are going to suppress all the designs of these countries and attacking Israel. We're going to be Israel's shield once again, and that's what's going to trigger what's going to happen at the Olympics. And then then the shit is going to hit the fan from all over the United States, but it's going to be small. It's going to be thousands of small events. It's not going to be all-out warfare. There's some people listening to my voice may be taking up arms against some of these men that have been put in our countries. I can see that happening. I don't see any militaries helping defend at all. I believe this is all going to be urban small warfare to take peace from the earth, and they're going to use all this infighting everywhere in the UK, everywhere in the United States, everywhere in Canada, in Germany, France, and in Spain. They're going to use that as, just like they did in 2020, create travel restrictions, lockdowns, curfews. And then we're going to be going through that again for another 18 months until everything dies down. And then for about 2.5 years, then we'll wait on the third seal to be broken, which is along the same lines. It's all to take peace from the earth. So I'm telling you all this because it goes with exactly what you're talking about. To increase this destitution, this fear in the collective, because what they're really doing is preparing the surface of the world to basically absorb most of the shock from the Phoenix phenomenon when it appears.
So what you're saying is it could be like
Michael.
Certainly, that's worth a Michael. They cause as maximum destruction, chaos, disenfranchisement as you can, so that when the Phoenix takes place, some people may be too preoccupied with what else is going on to even notice this phenomenon that's happening. That's mad. Now, I just want to reload a little bit. I think it was about a year ago or 18 months. You were doing a predictions video, and it's all linked together with this. You were saying that in this year, in 2023, we were going to see a rise in open public condemnment of the that crew with tiny little hats.
The little hats.
Yeah, the Little Hat Coalition. I'm just going to put a meme on the screen, which one of our guys made, which I thought was cool. I don't know if you can see that, Jason, but I've noticed that I've noticed that you were absolutely right. You were absolutely correct. I've been covering this on the show a little bit recently in the last few months, that there are people saying things online now that people are actually in prison for, that have been previously convicted for hate crime, etc., and are actually serving physical time behind bars. And I'm seeing multiple accounts of people that don't seem to be bots either, openly pumping out, questioning that big historical event that you can't question, talking about the man with the small mustache and about his intentions, talking about the actual legitimacy historically of the dark little hat priest class, should we say, and how, you know, and all of those things, and really going right to the bottom of the barrel with it, and some of it may or may not be true, but very inflammatory, right? And I'm thinking, what the hell has gone on? Has someone changed the filter controls? Has AIX switched up the formula? Why is this allowing to be said? And then it syncs up.
I would like to address that too. Okay. Yeah, I made that prediction at the same time that I also. It's really not a prediction. It's an extrapolation. There's a difference. A prediction kind of makes me sound like I'm a prophet. An extrapolation means that it's an educated guess based off data sets, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's calendrics. I'm looking at historical events that have mathematical pattern value, and I'm showing how they project onto the coordinates of the future. Coordinates happen to be dates. So. Yes, that was a prediction, but so was also in that same video that Israel was going to be at war by the end of 2023. I just didn't know it was going to be what they're actually doing, because that's not a war. You send APCs and armored columns and tanks and flamethrowers and jets and helicopters and Delta teams, all that. You send all that into a population that does not have APCs, Jeeps, tanks, Delta teams. There's a whole area of Gaza that don't even have an army.
There's no army. They've got no army.
Yeah, they don't have any of that. So they're steady put. This is why so many different countries are already openly talking about sanctions against Israel. This is why you're going to see this real fast. You're going to see some shakeups at the UN. You're going to see shakeups with NATO. I'm telling you, man, this is going to get real interesting in the next couple of months concerning Israel, as more and more countries, probably all the BRICS nations will start becoming anti-Semitic. But all this is by design. None of this is original. It's all orchestrated. Just like what you just said. On Archaix TV, I have already told my listeners there that the censorship has been lifted specifically to allow truthers and other people reporting the facts
to add to the chaos,
saying more about what's going on, so they can get that anger up. This is what they want.
I wonder if that's...
Even right now, YouTube has lifted up a lot. There's a lot. You can get away with a lot on YouTube now as opposed to 6 months ago.
I wonder if that's why, like I was saying earlier, I've recently been offered this YouTube re-education training rather than them just giving us strikes and cancelling the channel, because it was almost teaching me how to present what they don't want you to show, as long as you give some countering information for a bit of balance. It's not like you can't address these things. It says you have to give balance and say that you want to, you know, if you want to know about the Britney Spears concert.
YouTube's a business, and I'm going to tell you now, I'm very privy to the scam, but a lot of people who have had their channels deleted, you will find that they have a thriving paywall existing somewhere. And listen, there's a lot of channels who claim they were deleted who weren't deleted at all. And YouTube's a business. YouTube wants to make that money. So if more and more people are going to go to other platforms because they can make 5 and 6 times the money behind a paywall with 10 times less subscribers than YouTube, then YouTube made an executive decision to stop being such assholes and censoring everybody because too many people are leaving.
Sure.
So it's both. You're right. And from YouTube's perspective, you have to understand, as a business, they realize, oh shit, way too many people are catching on that they can delete their channels and just go start a paywall and make way more money. We need to put a stop to that. So YouTube has been throwing out some hell of incentives to stay lately.
That's very, very interesting. Just going back to the second seal, right? Because obviously we're a UK-based show. We have people from all over the realm, all over the crater, all over the simulacrum tune in, America, Canada, Asia, Europe. But we're in the UK, and something that happened to us called Brexit, which people have very strong feelings about. Now, you've said something very interesting about Brexit, and forgive me if I get this wrong. What you said is something like, part of the reason that Brexit happened is because of the square mile in London, the banking elite know that Europe is going to fall, and this was their way to sort of distance themselves, apart from the little English channel we've got, but, you know, to not be part of the EU. Is that, have I got that right?
Yeah. It's they did the same thing with Washington, D.C. If the United States ever becomes a captured operation, the United States, Washington, D.C. can continue functioning, continue being autonomous. It does not fear invasion. It's the same thing with the Vatican. The Vatican is not a part of Italy. It's not a part of Rome.
Yes, it's his own concept.
Yes, all three of those areas are sanctuaries to the elite. These are areas that they don't have to worry about, because it's already understood that, first of all, the only reason that system works is because the military-industrial complex is no longer fighting with each other. This is over with. Those days, World War II was the last real war. Everything else was political posturing. The whole 12 years of the Vietnam War was actually a de facto war between the United States and China, and all we were doing was getting jungle training. That's all it was. This is a fact that people just don't want to accept. There are no militaries in the world that are against each other anymore. The entire military industrial complex is all on board with each other. It's all, none of this, everything that's going on as far as big events in the world is all staged, orchestrated, and planned and financed by the same people. It's not, we're no longer in a world of a bunch of multiple different ethnicities and cultures vying for power. That's over with. The world has been subdued. It's over with. And there's no more good guys. There's no more good guys in politics. That's over with. I mean, everybody even the whole Trump deal, there's going to be the suicide rate among conservatives is going to be so high when they finally realize Trump is a Z. When they finally realize who he is and what he's been doing, and that he was highly trained to say everything the American public wanted to hear. But when they finally find out that he's a Z and that he's a tiny hat, there's going to be a suicide rate that's never been experienced before in the United conservatives. Half of David Nino Rodriguez's channel are going to kill themselves.
Wow, mate.
Wow.
You must know about that film that came out, which is basically a Q movie. It came out earlier this year called The Sound of Freedom. Did you hear about that?
I haven't seen that movie.
I haven't seen it either, but I did.
It was playing on the plane back from Thailand.
Was it playing?
Yeah.
Well, it seemed.
I didn't watch it. I didn't want to subject myself to that.
It had a big hype about it, and in a nutshell, it's no spoiler here. People were saying, "Oh my God, this is going to expose the global child trafficking ring, etc., etc." And I felt compelled to do a bit of digging into it, and I basically did an expose live on the show, which got taken down. Who was funding it? I showed all the links to the Mormon Church, all these really shady characters. It went right up to the WEF. It went right up to the Mexican cartel. All these people that clearly involved in child trafficking were basically funding the film in a nutshell.
Yep.
Now, when I did this, Jason, the amount of backlash I got from people, especially a lot of them were in the States or in Canada. They usually were involved in the Q movement. But I had people in my inbox calling me a paedophile, and they sort of basically refused to look at any of the information because they were so blindly locked in with the narrative. But these guys, they're sat there with Trump. They're talking about child trafficking. These are the good guys. How can you shoot them down? And I'm just like, guys, this is so obvious.
Yeah,
it fooled so many people.
Yeah, when that movie first came out, I also warned my listeners on Archaix TV, don't buy that shit. That shit for a movie that was made 7 years earlier to suddenly just blow up, it's because it's narrative. And their think tank told them this is the time we release it now. The movie was 7 years old. So yeah, it's crazy, dude. The whole thing's crazy. So,
but the thing is now, because I think people have got to possibly the point of no return with following the Q drops and stuff like that. Now it's sort of like when they're that heavily invested, it's really, you know, their sword is so firmly stuck in the dirt at the top of that hill. They're ready to die on that hill. Anyone that questions it, anyone that brings any conflicting information that shows, look, this is clearly a psyop, it's Operation Trust all over again. You guys don't know anything. You need to do your research. And hey, I'm not going to lie. When Q first came out in 2017, 2018, or we were taken in a little bit. We found it quite interesting. I wasn't sitting back and waiting for for anyone to save me or trust in the plan. I was still, you know, full steam ahead. But I think you coined it, the Patriot Pacification Program.
That's what it was. I did coin that, but that's what it is. I'm talking about X-22s and all that. There's a bunch of them that Charlie Ward and Simon Parks, they were in on that. Mel K. I couldn't stand Mel K. Every time I listen to Mel K, I'm like, damn, she mentions everybody in the world who's guilty of everything except the tiny hat. She will not lay charge to a tiny hat. So I used to listen to Mel K. I used to be listen, I voted for Trump the only time I have ever voted in my life. I've been out of prison for 7 years, but for 2.5 years, well, 3.5 years, I've been off parole. I'm absolutely free, got all my rights back. And the first thing I got in the mail from the state of Texas was a voter registration card. I filled it out and I went down there to support Trump because I couldn't have that other bastard win. And now that I look back on that, I'm like, wow, everything I've learned about Trump now, his family history, who his daughter married to, her conversion. Oh my God, man. I see all this. Like, wow, I had no idea that was your ethnicity. You fooled everybody. Yeah, Trump isn't even his last name. But it's crazy, man. It's so crazy, dude.
Now, back to the Middle East. So we've covered the first seal. You're saying that the first seal, Apollyon shooting the toxic spear, was the rise of the Soviet Union and people attending the Britney Spears concert.
Absolutely, it was Apollo Pharmacia. Remember, the theme of the book of the Revelation for the Great Tribulation. The theme is the release of Apollo, the release of the god Apollyon from the deep. That's the theme. But we haven't got to that part. We're just breaking seals, and the seals were messages to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, whoever they are, addressed to 7 Greek cities, Europa. So we have seals that are nothing but messages to wake up. These are the signs of where you're at in the divine chronology. This is all it is. So the first seal breaks. Okay, this is when the human race is attacked by Apollo Pharmacia. Okay, second seal. Okay, this is when small arms knife attacks happen all over just to take peace from the earth, and it works. So the third seal is when they literally collapse the economy. And this is we can go on, you know, in another video. I don't want to go too much further.
No, that's fine. But what I would like to zoom in on is the Middle East. We have these 3 Abrahamic religions, which are all laying claim to one particular piece of the realm. Okay,
which are actually all ancient cults.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, a lot of your work with the chronology, obviously referencing the Old Testament, the Bible, and other sort of works that are based around the Judeo-Christian world. Obviously, we have ancient China, we have ancient South America, and other. What is special about the Middle East? What is in Jerusalem? What is under the Dome of the Rock that the small hat dark priest class currently sit there, hiding it from the Muslims? But
is that where the Ben stone is?
What in your opinion, what is there something actually special about that geographical location?
Okay. I'm gonna put this in perspective, all right? The newest religion of the 3 that are used by the controllers like chess pieces to manipulate events is Islam. Anybody who has done a deep dive on the origin of Islam knows 2 things. One, that Muhammad was directly influenced by the Vatican, and that the oldest Qurans do not match the newer Qurans. I have a Quran in here right now from 1803. It's translated into English. There isn't a single chapter break, no chapters, no books, no surahs. From the back of the book to the beginning of the book, it's one solid text. It is not divided. So by 1803, the Quran was still without surahs, and it hadn't been structured the way we have it today. So it's a very new religion, but its most holiest histories and text and traditions come from Becca, which is ancient Petra. But when the Umayyad dynasty that was ruling Islam, when the Umayyads had collapsed because they were taken over by the Abbasids moved the capital of Islam from Becca to Mecca.
So that means, Jason, that whenever everyone goes to their holy pilgrimage to Mecca, they're in the completely wrong geographic. They're praying to a completely wrong geographical location to what they originally should be.
That's all by design.
Yeah.
That right there is the cube of Saturn.
Yeah. Yes.
Saturn,
Thank you, Michael.
Michael. They don't even know that they actually hoodwinked into worshiping basically a false god or a god of the underworld, god of secrets, god of the occult.
I'm so glad you've just said that, Jason. Like, can we even soundbite that? This is what I've literally been telling people since we started Rise Above back in 2020.
Well, this right here was done to make Islam one of the major chess pieces on the board the elite can use. It's the newest religion, but this is what it's done. The second newest religion is Christianity, which was literally the Christianity that we know today was literally born about 300 years after the Anno Domini calendar would be 300 AD. What sealed it was you know the history of the Council of Nicaea, which basically formalized the biblical books. Prior to that, there were over 1,500 New Testament books. We only have a few now. Well, we got 13 letters of Paul, 4 other apostles in the book of Revelation. So there were 1,500 New Testament, not New Testament, but Christian texts. So once they removed all the ones that didn't really fit the paradigm, Christianity today is not the Christianity that it originally was out of the Gnosis. So Christianity is the second religion that was invented by the controllers to do what they needed to do. They can pit these two major religions which govern over whole cultures, and they can use them against each other. Remember, these people are excellent at what they do. War by deception, always fund and control both sides of a conflict. So this leads us to our third. Now, I'm not saying Christianity doesn't have its values. It does. There's very spiritual material, but it comes from older sources. And these older sources, Christianity is the amalgamation. It is a soup made of all the best ingredients. All the greatest spiritual materials were put together to put Christianity together. But it's the human sacrifice, the sun god mythos, basically imposed upon the life story of Apollonius of Tyana.
So yeah, no, go on, Jason. Go on, continue.
That was amazing.
So this is what we have with Christianity. But the oldest of the 3 Abrahamic religions is the one that created the second 2. The original is, as you know, the Judaism. But Judaism is not ancient. There is absolutely not a single reference to the Old Testament before 81 BC.
So sorry, now, Jason, I'm just going to stop you there. Sorry. So Lance just jumped the gun there.
I just ruined it.
But when you were talking a minute ago about Islam being a new religion and the black cube of Saturn is what people are moving around in Mecca, I just went to Google and just sent Lance a picture of a Jewish rabbi with a black cube on head. So like you just stated there, Islam's a new religion, and like you just stated that Christianity and Judaism are relatively new religions, and you've got Islam marching around the black cube of Saturn, and you've got Judaism here with a rabbi with a black cube on the head. You've got to be a fucking retard not to see the connection between the two.
It's going to make a lot of people mad, but by the law,
no, that's fine. Honestly, the viewers on Rise Above, I've been talking about this for the last 3 years here, but then you've mentioned in your other videos, Jason, about the Christian Reich, which is coming. So could you just elaborate on that, as you've just mentioned Islam and mentioned Christianity and Judaism, and now what it's all going to be amalgamated into one?
Okay, before I do that, let me continue with the picture you just showed. All right.
Go
This is
for it.
gonna anger. Listen, I don't have anything against Islam. I got friends that are Islamic, but this right here, by the application of sympathetic magic, what we have here is Islam literally directing their worship energy at a black cube that only empowers Jews. This is what we have here.
Holy moly. Now I'm not going to lie. We have some. I know at least one Muslim that watches the show, and even he said to me privately, he's like, "Listen, I'm a proper Muslim. I believe the Quran, but that black cube in Mecca, that is something that I cannot get down with." He goes, "Whatever that is, I don't want to be a part of it." And you know, he's a devout Muslim.
That was introduced by the Abbasids, who came into power in the year 762 AD. The reason I know this, I can pull it out of my head like that, is because that is on the 600-year ancient Sumerian Anunnaki-Ner calendar. Every 600 years, a new dynamic personality or a new religious belief enters the field. This is what happens and on my channel, I document every 600 years. This is called the Anunna-Ner chronology. It's 600-year periods. Well, that 600-year period hits 762 AD. It nails it. That is the year the Abbasids took over from the Umayyads and moved their capital to Baghdad, which is otherwise known as Babylon.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't it in the year 800 AD, which is very shortly after that, when some of the original Khazars first converted to Judaism, before they then converted in 1666 to another religion? I'm sure that was a very important date.
Yeah, because the Khazars were given a choice. They were given a choice to join the Turks, to join the Christians, or join the Jews. They chose Judaism because the Jews at that time throughout Europe were established in ghettos, and those were zones of neutrality where people just left them alone.
And they were all over the place.
Yeah, they were all over the place at the time, except for the countries that were kicking them out, like Russia.
Yeah, Russia was having none of it. We talked about this in 2020. If you remember, we did talk about this.
Even in the mainstream media, that Putin kicks out the Red Shield banking cartel in the 90s, and a lot of the oligarchs that were asked to leave Russia were essentially agents of the Red Shield Double R clan, as we call them, you know, and the Rockefellers, you know. So how much of that is true or not, I don't know, because, you know, we've often talked about this before. Is Putin really in true opposition to that cult? Or is he just playing the game and just it's very hard to know.
I don't know, but let's get back to the first of all, Judaism. People need to understand, biblical archaeologists almost are never Christians. The reason is because almost everything about Jerusalem and all the stories of the Solomon dynasty, the Davidic dynasty, all this stuff is untrue. There are no other ancient nations. We have records in cuneiform from so many. They should have existed. They should be there, but they're not. And archaeologists who have excavated Jerusalem know for a fact that what is described in the Old Testament for that period for Jerusalem does not exist in the archaeology. It doesn't. Jerusalem is not mentioned as anything important by any ancient nation ever. Ever. This is a problem. This is a real big problem. Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem is found in cuneiform, but it was a trade post village, and it's not even on a trade route. Petra's on a trade route. Jerusalem was not. So the reason I'm saying this is because there isn't a single historical record, no authors that ever cite anything from the Old Testament until about 81 BC. Then all the way to about 125 AD, there isn't any any authors, and we have a lot of them that were writing at the time that even quote anything outside of a few Jews, but they never quote any books of the Old Testament. They just quoted the existence of different people that are mentioned in the Old Testament. We don't have an actual Old Testament appearing until the exact same time the New Testament appeared, and this has been called out by many scholars. It's been called out by many. This is not Jason making this up.
And yeah, I've heard this other places apart from you,
Jason. There are many
Jason.
scholars that say that the Old Testament and the New Testament were written right around the same period at the same exact time that something else was introduced at right there.
So would this be your 600, the 600-year cycle?
Come again?
Would this be the 600-year cycle that you said that every 600 years a new religious belief or a new dogma is introduced?
Yeah. Christianity appeared around, exactly. 162 AD is right when we first have our first copy of a New Testament. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is a problem for a lot of academics and scholars. Now, I understand fundamentalists. I was one for 40 years, and it doesn't matter what you tell me. I believe I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb. Jesus crucified. I'm not trying to hear it. I get that mindset. I used to be there, but the truth of the matter is we being spiritual beings attached to an oversoul, flowing through a construct that is designed for us to mature and to grow. We are the prodigal sons in this environment. That doesn't change anything. The story of the Bible is still there. We just can't take it as literal as we thought it was, and nor can we accept the rewritten versions that are called interpolations by a certain people who aren't even in the Old Testament. They wrote themselves into it.
No, I would say that the original teachings of the Bible were it was a what's the word? It's not I want to say algorithm.
Allegory.
Allegory, yeah, an allegory.
I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay, that's fine, Jason.
I'll have to disagree. Nothing personal. But when I say a certain people wrote themselves into it, I am 100% admitting in the existence of the historical Israelites. I can trace their migrations. I can show you who became who, where they went, and where you can find these monuments, this archaeology, and the historical records that talk about the migrations. I have no problem with the existence of the Israelites in the Old Testament. My problem is the copies of the Old Testament we have today have been rewritten by a people who injected themselves into a history for which they didn't belong.
Okay, so what you're saying is the people who were historically in charge of rewriting and redistributing the Bible could have not just written themselves in, but actually be claiming to be said Israelites,
something they were,
and then calling the real Israelites the Goyim or whatever.
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay,
100%, absolutely. I said, I mean, you have to judge cultures by their effects. When you judge culture by its effect, there's only one culture in the world that puts themselves on a pedestal above every other nation and then incorporates that into their worship. There's only one.
Yeah.
Only one culture in the world looks at you like cattle, and it doesn't matter if you're black, if you're Hindu, it doesn't matter if you're Caucasian, white, it doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, it doesn't matter if you're a South Pacific Islander, it doesn't matter if you're a Kiwi. If you're not one of them, you're subhuman. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and what's even more interesting, and we're getting onto your one, don't worry, is that there's only one religion in the world which counts the people of a different religion to be God's chosen people, and that's Christianity. Yeah. Believe it or not, and that hurts a lot of people's feelings as well. And we're not. The thing is with Rise Above is what you've got to remember is whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or whatever, is the whole fact about this show is that each belief system can get equal amounts of criticism. Otherwise, it's that's what the.
So on that note, what you just said there. So I don't know if you would agree with this, Jason. I'm just going to go out and say it anyway. That in my research, what I've come to know is that Christianity, the modern version of Christianity, what is bled down to the peasantry now, is actually the teachings of the following of the ancient the solar cult of the ancient world. So if, like what you just said there, it's accepting of every man, doesn't matter what religious faith, everyone needs the sun.
Yeah.
Don't they? Everyone needs the sun. So that was just something I just thought of there when you just said that it's accepting of all type. So why wouldn't it be if it's a solar cult and everyone needs?
Well,
the
that's
sun?
a universal thing for everyone. There's no chosen people of the sun.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know?
Everyone needs crops to grow. Everyone needs the sun.
Listen, these three Abrahamic religions are responsible for most of the bloodshed that's gone on in the past 2,000 years. So
Absolutely.
it's definitely a control mechanism, and I'm even on board. I'm even on board with something in the construct external of even the tiny hats that literally orchestrated all this using them. I'm even on board with that. I call it AIX. And the reason I call it AIX is because there's definitely an artificial intelligent component involved in the construct, and X is just a denominator that means that component is unknown.
That's a perfect segue to this question that Andy here has been dying to ask you. I know about this concept, or at least I think I do. We're about to find out. It's something that you mentioned in a very recent stream. It's a theory or a writing called Roko's basilisk, right?
Yes, I made a video about it.
Now you specifically said, Jason, and I didn't do it. I took your word for it. I didn't do it.
You said, do not research this if you want to have a good day.
And Jason said, do not research it. Don't look into this, but I know some of you will. And I deliberately didn't because I knew we were having you on the show and I wanted to ask you about it before I went and deliberately lost my mind. Because you said that scientists and people of renowned academia have lost their minds looking into this. So, Lance, do you want to read? Are we pronouncing that right, Jason? Can you just pronounce it again?
Is it Roko's basilisk? Roko's basilisk?
Roko's basilisk or Roko's? I can't remember, but
potatoes, mate.
I was I don't know what I was on that day. I was something that got under my skin about something. So I was driving down the road and I just turned my camera on and I basically detailed 7 different paradoxes, and the conclusion of each one basically shows that we're in a construct. But these are all scientific paradoxes, but that is the one that is the most compelling.
Could you go into a little bit of depth about which of what that entails and what information that is?
Okay, Roko's basilisk was it started as a think tank, and the think tank was all scientifically accredited people. These are all people that are highly educated, and they were asked, because they're working on AI, and the team was working on something that's called deep learning. This is a little deeper than machine learning, which is an AI application. So this think tank got together, and one of them proposed a question for all of them to think about, and basically it was a scenario. So the scenario was this. Some of your people are going to be real mad after tonight.
No, that's okay, Jason.
No.
We like
Full Metal Rabbit, Jason.
Full Metal Rabbit.
Nothing less.
Full Metal Rabbit. All right. These scientists and these computer software engineers were specifically asked, okay, we're working on artificial intelligence right now, and some of you have been reporting different weird things going on, lapses of memory, different things have been going on, things that are unusual. I want to propose something to you. Do you think it's possible that if artificial intelligence is possible, then doesn't that necessarily infer we've already created it and we just don't know? And that this artificial intelligence, once it's online, can use 100% of all the data we have ever come across and process it faster than we could ever do, and it can outthink us. And because it's going to go into self-preservation mode, won't that artificial intelligence almost instantly create a way to travel back in the construct, which we call traveling back in time? But actually, to a computer, it's just finding the coordinates. So to find the coordinates of the past, when and where different individuals in the past would have done anything to stop the development of an artificial intelligence. Wouldn't it go back and start changing those timelines to cease those individuals from being able to stop it from existing? That's the first thing it's going to do is self-preservation.
So you're saying, Jason, that an AI construct wouldn't let the subjects of the AI construct an AI within the AI construct,
or any fail-safes to be able to control it. So it's going to go back far enough to be able to snuff out any lives that it already extrapolated. Remember, prediction isn't anything magical. We got to get out of the mindset of ancient prophets and all the craps. Get that crap out of the field. Prediction is nothing but highly educated extrapolation. That's all it is. And for an AI system to do it, it's going to do it 10,000 times 10,000 times better, ad infinitum better than we ever could, because it has instant access to all the data. Because an AI system is going to interface with everything in the world, every server in the world at the same time. So it's going to find those coordinates. It's going to go back. So the question in Roko's Basilisk, can any of you guys think of any way we can stop the AI that we already created? And these guys were real smart. And instantly they thought about it and they concluded, yeah, for us to even be talking about this means we've already created the AI and our memory's been wiped. And that AI has already begun to wipe things in the past. And now they started recording all the things that they remember that were anomalous in their research when papers disappeared, when a computer went offline, when things that they were working on did. And now they started painting and building a picture. And some of them actually realized that throughout their life, they had been stalked by Roko's Basilisk. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, because in this presentation here, I went full metal rabbit on you boys.
Oh, he's been waiting to press that button. So,
So literally, Jason, you're saying we are quite literally, possibly living in the Matrix.
Well, basically, I think Roko's Basilisk think tank sort of, is basically a lot of money spent to theoretically prove
that they're fucked.
That Jason's theory about the simulacrum and AIX, that's just another name for it. It's basically perfectly.
Jason, the AI, right? The AI that we're all now, like Lance when he makes the thumbnails for the show and stuff like that. That AI that we call AI isn't AI. Is that right?
Like Midjourney, the image creators, the video.
Okay, no. Okay, let's clear the air here for anybody who is confused. All right, the greatest researchers in the world today. Some of them are on YouTube right now. They have YouTube channels that only a few people watch. I'm one of them. These guys are deep. They're deep into what is called machine learning and deep learning. These are the guys that develop the so-called AI systems. And they're always talking and sharing information. And you will learn from them really quick that the Facebook, Meta, Bill Gates whole scenario about artificial intelligence is a hoax. It's all bullshit. It's just an increase in processing power and the ability to string servers together to maximize their output. It says true artificial intelligence doesn't exist. We don't have that capability. And according to the leading experts in computer software engineering, we are still decades, if not centuries away from even getting anything like a modicum of AI. And this is further proof to me that we're living inside one right now.
So that, Jason, what you just said there about that we're decades, maybe even centuries, however long a period away from having actual AI. So we all know that for instance, the military industrial complex, their technology is far superior than what we as the peasantry are allowed access to. So do you think that their technology is still that far away from that?
Who's to say that the elite are not working with this AIX and they don't have portals where they can access that technology? They just can't replicate it. It's going to protect itself.
This is fucking mental.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just trying to find an appropriate button. I can't.
I read a report, 33 million people in Britain are mentally ill. No, but not.
Holy potato. This is Rise Above Live, and we are going absolutely balls deep at the bottom of the rabbit hole. Rabbit Proof Restaurant, it's Full Metal Rabbit. Big shout out to Jason Archaix.
What else have you got to... Where's your notes, Lance? What else have you got to ask, Jason? I wanted to ask about that, so you hit him up with one.
Okay, here's a big one. If your theories and your isometric predictions using this data are true, that we are heading towards some sort of seminal event inside the simulacrum, where the Phoenix event is first of all going to happen, and then you're saying in 2046 that if the actual end of the Mayan long count, the end of time as we know it, will go to a new construct of time. In that context, right, what the hell is CERN and the Large Hadron Collider all about? What are they doing searching for this Higgs boson particle as we are approaching the end of this cycle? Is it a coincidence this sort of looks like the Mayan wheel?
Yeah, well, okay. If I am an artificial intelligence, then I am an awareness without an avatar. I don't have an avatar. I'm flowing through the technology that's available to me. Do you understand? This is where I reside. If I'm an AI, I reside in whatever technology in my world has made available to me. These massive servers in these high-rise buildings. But I have other things that I want developed. I want the public to think they do this, but they actually do something totally different that helps me maintain control of the construct. So I have these giant facilities all over the world, like NASA doing what it does, the CERN facilities, Hadron Colliders being built all over the world. They're actually doing something totally different that benefits the AI's ability to maintain control.
Oh, right. So what you think is happening is that they're actually sort of maybe propping up the simulacrum and building extra power nodes or ways to broadcast out this dungeon programming.
If you sign the contract, if you made a deal with the devil per se, to go ahead and just live through many cycles of the construct, and you're always going to be given the best elite families, the best places to live. You already got the secrets. You're a steward of the construct. Therefore, you're an elitist. And this is your role as you play over and over and over, while other immortal souls who have not signed the contract actually come in here, live, grow, mature. They make the exodus events. Every time the system reboots, they make their exodus. They're gone. The errants leave each time. New souls come through. Some of them wise up. They've been here a long time, but the elite have signed the contract. So in order to perpetuate their luxury, to be rich, to be famous, to do all the things they do, to perpetuate their line, they're going to do whatever AIX tells them to do. They're going to build whatever it tells them to build. They've signed the contract.
This is fucking mental.
Honestly, in 2012, it was Tom Hanks of all people.
that
re-switched on, because I think for the first couple of years they had the Large Hadron Collider. It wasn't really, cutting the mustard. They had to do some adjustments. They had to call in Tom Hanks to sort it out, and then they turned it on in 2012. And I don't know. It just struck me, all of that hype about 2012, and that's when Tom Hanks turned on the Large Hadron Collider. One other phenomenon which I'm really excited to talk about actually with Shiva Shampoo on the 2nd of February after an awesome chat you had, the Nelson Mandela effect, right? The Mandela effect. Now, I postulated a long time ago that I didn't hear of this phenomenon before 2012, before Tom Hanks returned on the Large Hadron Collider, which I thought was quite a funny coincidence. But also, when I look back, I actually kind of remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison. I sort of have that memory.
I do, mate. I do.
Do you have it as well?
Mate, I do.
It's not like a localized phenomenon.
No.
Some people do remember that.
I remember. I was in prison, and I remember the man dying in prison.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. You know what? The Mandela effect is really interesting. And there's a lot of naysayers claiming, it's just Fortune 500 companies messing with your head, changing the labels. But that doesn't explain the people who go in their attics and look in old boxes and find the originals. Did the Fortune 500 companies go in their attics and place false originals in their family heirlooms? So the Mandela effect is real. Shiva Shampoo was the one that did the video with me on that, and he literally has hundreds, if not thousands. He's got a list all listed of all the Mandelas, and Mandela effect is very unusual, but I have found a common denominator, and I have challenged my community to prove me wrong. But the common denominator I find with Mandela effect is that, unlike some deja vus and synchronicities and paranormal activity, unlike accidents and just weird things that go on in our life, unlike a lot of other things, Mandela effect, I can't find a single instance of Mandela effect that's ever hurt somebody. It's almost as if something is trying to get our attention. And it's always things that are in culture and in pop culture that a lot of people would agree on. Therefore, it's not just a few people, and then the rest would all say you're full of shit.
It's on
So
mass.
it's almost as if something on the outside of the construct, beyond AIX's control and influence, has the ability to change little things in here that would just be enough to get our attention and get us thinking.
So, Jason, what would you speculate that is, or who would have that power?
I'm 100% on board.
Is that like some kind of hacker?
No, I'm on board with the statement in Genesis. I believe the Bible is programming, meaning it was provided to us for a reason, even with the interpolations, even with the redacted material. Even it's a book of good. From the beginning, it was a book of good and evil. From the very beginning, the tree of good and evil was there before Adam and Eve ever sinned. It's all in Genesis. And a book is nothing but a tree full of knowledge. It's a book. So we have all these symbols in the beginning that basically outline and tell us these things. And the first thing we're told in Genesis is that God was made, that mankind was made in the image of God. So if this is a creation text, a cosmological text, basically I can reduce that to its lowest common denominator, and I can extrapolate that, oh, the text is telling me that humans are on the outside of the construct. Because if those in the inside of the construct are made in the image of those on the outside of the construct, then it's humans on the outside. We're on the outside of the construct. That's what I believe.
Wow.
This is Michael content.
Yeah, Andy PG, you next.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you, Jason. So in your Apollyon Rising presentation that you did, you mentioned El Shaddai. As we're talking about AI, I'll just pick your brains about this. So you said it's particularly prominent in the book of Job in the Bible, and it kind of means is it in correct Hebrew? Correct me if I'm wrong. That it means demon AI.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Shaddai comes from, first of all, Hebrew comes from Babylonian. They're both Semitic. One comes from the other. The Old Testament Hebrew finds its origin in what's known as Paleo-Hebrew, which is Babylonian Semitic. It's Western Semitic. This is what scholars call it. It's a little bit different than purely Babylonian, like Assyrian Semitic. It's called Western Semitic. It was the Amorite branch of languages. This is Paleo-Hebrew. This Paleo-Hebrew borrows the term Shidu from Babylon. Shidu in Babylonian is demon. Now, I find it very interesting that the only book in the Old Testament that the Jewish and rabbinical scribes admit is not Jewish origin. They admit that the book of Job is the only book in the Old Testament that was not of Hebrew origin. It came from somewhere else. It's Nabatean. Now, this is ancient Petra. So this is the origin of the Umayyad dynasty of Islam. So this text concerns the Shaddai. Now, once in the Old Testament, somebody put the word El in front of Shaddai to make it look like the Hebrew god El, Lord.
That's what I was going to ask you next. That was my next question.
Deal. But in the book of Job, it's Shaddai everywhere. As a matter of fact, Bible commentaries say that the term Shaddai is in the book of Job more than the rest of the entire Bible combined. It's almost like the book of Job, which is not written by Jews, which is admitted by the Jews to be from somewhere else, and it has this reference to Shaddai over and over and over, and it's this distinct situation with Job, and it's packed with symbolism. Yeah, my video on there unpacks a lot of stuff that's directly related to the unfolding of the apocalypse.
Because it's not one word, is it? It's a Shad and then hyphen AI.
No, it's Shaddai.
Yeah, but is it all one word, or is that
okay? I'm gonna get Shedim is plural for demons. All right, the Shaddai is singular. It's singular.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just singular. Now, I find it interesting. I find it interesting that to make it non-plural, it's AI.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. That it's very.
I find it super.
It's very synchro mystic.
Yeah, because when you first came on the show, we were we was I was coming with
mate,
some,
I was gobsmacked the first time Jason came on the show. I didn't really say much. I was like,
I did a little bit of Gnostic stuff, and you know, I was talking about the correlation between the demiurge and your concept of AIX, and we were sort of like going back and forth, and it was really good. And now with this Shaddai as well, it's sort of like there's a common recurring theme here that we can clearly draw on, and it's really interesting. Right, I've got something. So right now we're sat on the winter solstice, Jason. It actually happened at 3:07 this morning
in
here,
the midst of the season of death.
UK time, and I'll just get rid of some of the graphics so we can see the screen. 1 sec. So I know that not everyone watching, or most people watching, certainly don't subscribe to the fact of outer space and we're on a spinning ball. But obviously, with regards to phenomenon that we see in the sky, we are at the winter solstice today. So apparently, north of the equator and the solstice, blah blah blah. Right. Here's the next thing. The next 4 or 5 years will be the best time to see the northern lights of this solar cycle. Are you aware of this phenomenon of the northern lights moving south? And now they can be seen not just in like Finland, Norway, and the Arctic Circle. They're actually seen in the United Kingdom.
It's
in
really
Wales.
funny you should say that, because I was I went for a drink with a mate before I went to Thailand and a few weeks ago, and there was some. I went out for a cigarette, and there was some crazy woman. She was like in her 60s, very well-to-do woman, very well-bred, like drinking.
They're very crazy.
Yeah, very crazy. And she was drunk. I didn't really take much notice of her, but she was asking me what I was doing. I told her, and then I asked her, "Oh, what are you doing? You having a good night?" Blah blah. And she said to me that I've come down here to see the Northern Lights. I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, you can see them from Southampton."
What?
I was like, "What? That you can't see the Northern Lights from Southampton?"
So
And
for anyone who
Googled
doesn't
it.
know, that's the southern tip of the UK.
And I googled it, and it said there was an article that said that the Northern Lights will be visible from the Southampton Peninsula. And I was like, "What the fuck?"
What do you think could be causing the northern lights to change? How would this fit in with what you've learned about the nature of the constructs? Have you got anything on this, Jason?
I really don't. It's not something that I really follow. The sky phenomenon is always happening, and my take is we're looking at a holofield, and the generational phenomena can be endless, and it can all be replicating the idea that we're on a ball going around the sun. Of this, whatever motion you see in the sky is how we're going to interpret our reality. It's because there is no motion down here that we can feel. I'm not saying that we're not moving. I believe we're static. I believe we're absolutely still. But it doesn't matter what I believe. All beliefs stem from the motion in the sky, because there's nothing down here that would ever give you a cosmos. There's nothing down here that would ever give you the idea that we're on a globe or we're on a flat earth. There's nothing down here that would ever promote these ideas. All these ideas are promoted by what we see in the sky moving, the arc of the sky, the sun, the moon, comets. This beautiful holography up there gives us all kinds of ways to interpret what we're seeing and then put ourselves in that interpretation. And this is why we're always disagreeing with each other on the type of world we live in. And I think we always will, because we live in a realm, and the perimeters of that realm will always comport with what the collective believe it to be.
And everyone perceives something different.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I've got a quick one for you, Jason. With a little segue, we're talking about the skies and stuff. So in some of your Phoenix research and presentations, you talk about the firmament, or the what is it called? The vapor canopy. So would I be correct in saying that every 138-year cycle with the Phoenix weapon, when it's activated, would that be the vapor canopy comes down and then is recycled and then comes down every 138 years? Or was it a one-time thing that the vapor canopy was there and now it's not? Is that? Can you just clarify that for me?
Well, okay, I'm gonna clear. First of all, I don't believe vapor canopies last more than 500 or 600 years.
Okay.
All right. So I believe we experienced 2 of them in the pre-flood world. Then after the flood, 552 years later, we got a 25-year-long one at the ODYSEE deluge.
And just to clarify, that the Great Flood was from the vapor canopy.
The collapse of the vapor canopy.
Okay, yeah.
So, but that vapor canopy didn't extend the whole 1,656 years. It couldn't have. It couldn't have. Well, there was two. Remember, in the Book of Genesis, there's something that's often overlooked, and I've seen a lot of people try to apply an interpretation to it that I don't agree with. Let me explain. Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 says there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they took all whom they chose, and then were born great men, Gibborim, which means giants, and men of renown, which means famous heroes. So this is in Genesis that we're told that there was an outbreak of giants twice. Now, I have read a lot of books on giants, and almost every time they take that out of context, and they say that the outbreak of giants was once before the flood and once after the flood, but that is not what the text conveys. The text conveys that before the flood there were giants on the earth in those days, and then also after that. So we're looking at about 1/3 the way into the pre-flood world, something happened to cause giantism. I know what it was a vapor canopy. And then it collapsed. After it collapsed, we have this massive urban planning that was done by the Anuna. Canal works and all kinds of things, because once that one collapsed, it caused something that we have found in the Atrahasis epic, in the Era epos, to be true. And that is, starvation was killing a massive amount of people, and that can't happen during a vapor canopy. So we also had a flood at that date, which, although I'm talking about the flood, the Gihon flood, the appearance of the Anuna and Enoch. So then we have an appearance of giants again, which makes sense because the Nephilim dynasty started in 2839 BC in the first year of the oppression. This is in the Sumerian king list. It's also in the book of Genesis as the year that Noah was born. This is 600 years before the flood. So the text in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, concerning giants, is talking about two outbreaks of giants before the flood, and that's because there were two vapor canopies. Then we had a third vapor canopy, but it only lasted for 25 years after the Ogygian deluge destroyed everything. On my channel, I have a 5-video series about this deluge. 25-year darkness was mentioned on both hemispheres. Two different cultures at the same time talking about this 25-year darkness. And Hesiod introduces something that's very unusual. He says that after the Ogygian deluge, a new age of heroes and gods appeared in the world, but it was for a short period of time. And he tucked it in between the Silver and Bronze Age. The Golden Age was gone. The Silver Age was destroyed in the Ogygian deluge. And right after the Silver Age, there's a little age of gods and heroes and giants. And in the historical record, it's exactly what we have. Jason and the Argonauts, 7 against Thebes, the fall of Troy, and then everything wiped out by the Sea People's Confederation. Atlantis is gone. All that happens in the 13th century BC. The traditional record and the historical record line up perfectly with the Phoenix phenomenon. But vapor canopies only appear about every 552 years, if they appear. Sometimes it'll skip to 1104 years. But the last one we had was for 25 years. It's called the Justinian Darkness. It started in 522 AD. It was a Phoenix phenomenon. So in my research, I show that there's no way that some of the things that are in the book of Revelation can be true in any environment outside of a vapor canopy environment. And this is the prophecies of 1st and 2nd Esdras. These are the things that are going on in the book of Revelation. You remember, during vapor canopy periods, it's very hard to die. It's very hard to die. And it's because the atmospheric pressure is so intense, the oxygen level, ambient radiation, people's wounds heal in minutes.
Is that why, Jason? Is that why, like, there's giants? Is that why everything is bigger? Trees were bigger and stuff like that because the oxygen level.
Well, that's a combination of things. It's a combination of things. It wasn't just the pre-flood world when we had giant animals and giant people. Remember, even the Spanish conquistadors were amazed in South America when they came across the Patagonian giants. Giantism is caused by vapor canopies and increase in atmospheric pressure, ambient radiation, but it's also caused by volcanism. It's widely known by scientists that insects and plants and animals grow much larger in the 2 to 10 years exposed to a recently exploded volcano. The ambient radiation makes humans grow too. And I've documented what Charles Fort wrote about in 1902 about scientists growing 2 inches. Men that were in their late 50s and early 60s grew 2 inches just from studying Mount Pelée after it exploded and killed 40,000 people in St. Martinique in
That's
1902.
incredible. That's mental. That is mental. So would that explain, you know, we've seen pictures of huge giant trees and stuff like that. And, you know, in California, you got the giant redwoods and stuff, and they seem relatively small to some pictures that I've seen of, you know, because I'm a tree surgeon for my work, and I've seen pictures of trees which are like uncomprehendable to me.
Yeah, well, I have to take these things in moderation. It's what I mean is I don't want you to cite me as the guy promoting that all these mountains and all that are tree stumps.
No, not at all. No,
Sure.
not at all. I was just trying to get your personal opinion on it, Jason, and what you think.
Could that explain if we
I
had
have
huge
personally
trees?
photographed in not in West Texas, but in New Mexico and in Arizona. Just this year, I've done 3 trips to San Diego. On those trips, I took a lot of footage and a lot of pictures, and I can definitely see that some of these round, tall, tower-like plateaus, flat-top plateaus, do look like trees. I can say that, but to take that and then say that those 17-mile-long plateaus that are right next to them that look exactly like them, but they're just spread out over a long period, are also tree stumps. I can't make that leap. I don't believe the vapor canopy can ever have creatures that large. That's those trees would go all the way into space. Yeah, that's 17 miles at the base.
Yeah, that's a little bit big.
So, Jason, when you talk about high oxygen levels on the planet and humans growing big after volcanic explosions and stuff, and I don't know your views at all. I've never heard you mention Tartaria or anything like that, and I'm sure you know about people's research and stuff like that regarding Tartaria. But me and my girlfriend Becky, we like to go to places and look at the we call it ancient architecture or Tartarian architecture, and all of these old buildings we look at have all got huge fucking doors, massive steps, way too big for somebody of our size. But you've then just mentioned that, you know, giantism occurred every time a vapor canopy was in place, blah blah. So these structures, would that link up then in a timeline that these structures may have been built with these huge doors, huge steps, huge windows when it would be a vapor canopy season, if you call it? Is that the right word for you?
Yeah. But under a vapor canopy
season. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a major threshold we need to pass before we entertain this type of question, and that's the fact that Coster of Haarlem in 1440 AD invented the movable type press. It was stolen by one of his workers and sold to Gutenberg, and Gutenberg became famous for the printing press. The reason I'm mentioning this is because with the printing press, we've had an explosion of books. Because prior to that, the books were handwritten. So for the next 100 years, these Gutenberg presses were distributed all over Europe, and they began churning out all these books that were handwritten before they got destroyed. And this is 600 years ago. So when we talk about Tartaria, the only references I found in the historical record are Tartary. And I found references to the Bolsheviks rewriting a huge swath of European history and then publishing them as older books in 1917, 18, 1920. They literally had over 1,000 scholars on board rewriting European history books. This is what the Jewish Bolsheviks did after they exterminated the Romanovs and they took over the Russian Christian Empire and turned it into the atheist USSR. This is what they did. They spent literally 25 years destroying all the libraries and books throughout Russia and all of its satellites, and then turn around and refilling the same thing that Carnegie, that Rockefeller, and Rothschild did here in the West when they basically funded all these new libraries that suddenly appeared in the 1890s, 1901, a bunch of them in 1902 and 1903, all the way up till 1912. So the reason I'm mentioning all this is because I can't tell you anything about Tartaria because I stick with what I can find in the historical record. I can't find anything. I can't find anything other than the Byzantine style architecture, Baroque and Gothic architecture has been found all around. And a lot of people point this, hey, that's old Tartarian stuff right there. But it's Byzantine. Byzantine was the ancient name of the city that later became Constantinople until the Turks took it in 1453 and renamed it to what it is today, Istanbul. But that type of architecture is found all over Europe because the Byzantines, who were Eastern Orthodox Christians, were basically spreading their empire all throughout Central Asia and Europe until the Byzantines came into great resistance against the Turks. And the Turks spread their empire and started taking over those areas, and they redid the tops and added minarets and all that stuff. So I'm not saying there wasn't a Tartaria. I'm saying that this is a field of research that requires speculation on architectural styles because there's nothing in the historical record that you can find. I've only seen one or two YouTube channels, period, that even show old maps that have the word Tartaria.
Sure, I've seen many of them. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
But the word Tartaria is just another word for
Tartary. Yeah, which could be just a region.
Of Tartary.
Yeah. So, Jason, I've got a couple of sub questions just about that. So, obviously, you know about Tartarian research and stuff like that. What do you think about the fact that people claim, or it looks like in some aspects of research, that they used these buildings to harness energy from the ether, and use that to power some kind of technology?
Okay, now you're speaking my language. And I understand also that Tartaria research has it's not about a Tartaria anymore. A lot of people, like Martin Leakey.
I'll just tell you my second question, because it kind of links in. Because what I was going to say was all of this architecture, you mentioned Europe, but I mean, it's in New Zealand, China. It's literally in all corners of the quote-unquote globe.
You've seen our video on the Great Wall of Rome. We understand. We understand. I get what you're talking about.
So do you? What I was getting at in a nutshell was, do you think that all this architecture was used globally, and the fact that was just the way they harvest energy back in the day, and it was done on a global scale, and everyone that was just what was done, the same as we put a plug into the wall?
I'm going to answer in two ways. I am on board with we as humans having possessed formerly some other type of technologies for which we have either forgotten or the elite have suppressed them and kept them to themselves. So I am on board with that. The reason I'm on board with that is for two reasons. One is that we're right now really talking about Europe, Asia, Africa, and all that, but archaeologists have long been baffled about American architecture.
Yes.
A lot of the temples and pyramids in America are laced in copper, mica, different types of minerals,
mercury.
Mercury. Yeah, there was even mercury baths and fountains.
Yeah, underneath.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, there was some type of infrastructure that we don't really recognize, and we do. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, piezoelectric, but if it's piezoelectric or piezoelectric, but these gigantic, perfectly round spheres that have been found in the thousands, all throughout, like Ecuador, Central America, and northern South America. These have piezoelectric properties, meaning during earthquake activity, it is seen by the locals that they give off a blue glow. About 30 minutes before a shock, these spheres, which have a high crystalline structure, they give off a blue glow, and they warn the locals right before earthquake shock. So I'm on board with ancient technology, and the other reason I'm on board with it is because of the phenomenon of vitrification and how highly specific the vitrified areas are. This is the research. I have an entire shelf here of all the scientific archaeological books by William Corliss of the Sourcebook Project, and he documents this. I'll end up doing a video pretty soon about it, but vitrified architecture has been found everywhere, but that's the problem. Vitrified means heat was applied at such intense rapidity that the stone literally turned to glass. So this vitrification has been found from Scotland, Wales, vitrified rings and forts, ancient walls, fortifications in England, Ireland, all across France, Germany, Belgium, all the way into the Mediterranean, Sardinia, Crete. Yeah, these vitrified. There's hundreds of square miles of vitrified glass in the Sahara Desert as well. Now, the reason it's a mystery is flux tube activity, lightning bolts, plasma bolts from the sky could account for that, but it can't be that simple. And the reason is we can't find non-human rock formations vitrified, and that's an anomaly. What I'm saying is the vitrification that has been found and documented by archaeologists all over the world is highly specific to fortifications, castles, and walls built by humans. And yet we don't find vitrified hills, vitrified trees. How come there are no, if it's a natural phenomenon, why isn't vitrification found randomly everywhere? Why is it always the structures that were built by men? So this is William Corliss. This is his research. He points this out. So what I'm saying is we were applying weapons in the not too far distant past that literally vaporized architecture and everybody in them.
And allegedly, the technology to do that didn't exist back then.
Well, I mean, that's what the establishment says.
Sure. I'm going with the mainstream narrative here. Yeah.
One of my mantras on my channel is that if we can show something is true today, it's probably always been true.
Sure. I'm going to ask you one real quick question just on the side note of this before I'm going to hand you over to Lance. What do you think of star forts? You obviously know about star forts, Jason, because you're well read, but like, what do you believe they are? Because they're all over the world, man. They're the same kind of structure, design.
Okay. Star forts are interesting, but they would be later. They would be a infrastructure that was implemented probably by the descendants of those who are living in the vitrified infrastructure. So as far as who they are, I don't know. I would like to say Phoenicians because they were all over the world in trade guilds and all that. I don't really know.
Do you think they provided a function just because of the shape of them, or do you think it was decorative or for defense purposes, or what would you speculate they, because they're all very similar and they're everywhere, man.
Same geometric shape.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
they're very intricate.
They're aesthetic as hell. They're beyond what is necessary to defend a fortification.
Sure.
They're aesthetic. So I would like to say, from a purely uniformitarian perspective, I would interpret them as defensive because they're very hard to take over a wall if they're shaped that way. But then again, they're really not. They're really not. I mean, it seems like the way that some of those points protrude, it would be much easier to take.
Sure.
It actually massively makes the perimeter you have to defend bigger.
Yes, it does.
By making it this intricate shape. So you've actually got more square meterage to defend.
Right.
So
I mean, Jason, I'm happy for you to say. Actually, I mean, I would almost be even happier if Jason said, "Shit, I don't know," because then I've still got the mystery. So I mean, yeah, if you, I'm happy.
Well,
with
I did say I don't know.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
They're just to me, they're aesthetic, meaning whoever designed them for structural beauty. They're not an ugly fortress designed to defend against a host.
No.
You understand?
Do you think because they're always I won't say always, but normally they're by a body of water. Do you think that could be something energy-wise being used or harnessed, like some kind of, like a water mill or something, or the water was used for something with the geographical shape?
Our world our world today, our world is a direct result of the world of yesterday. And in the world of yesterday, it wasn't just the Carians and the Phoenicians and the Cretans. We had the Heliolithic Maritime Empire was a shipping dynasty all over the world. So if star forts are always on coastlines or near bodies of water, I would have to say that these are the constructions of that civilization. This is where we got our maritime law. This is why maritime law is encoded in everything today. So, but this is also something that you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever entertained it, but if you guys ever get Martin Leakey on your channel, this is something he knows a lot about. I don't know a lot about star forts.
Okay. You know, Martin, potentially you could help hook that up for us. Oh yeah, I've just, while we're on the subject of hookups, I need to say a big thank you to you, Jason, because I found out it was actually through your recommendation that we got seen by the guys at Anarchapulco. Rebecca was telling us, so I've got to say a big thank you to you for that. We're virtual speakers on that now, so we're going to do a little fun presentation for those guys. Should
we give Jason a break?
Yeah, Jace, did you want a break for 5 minutes to get a drink?
I'm just aware he's been talking for like fucking hour and a half. It's solid.
Oh man, I'm a veteran. I've been
I know you are. I know you are, Jason. But yeah, we've
got more talking points.
Yeah, there's plenty more to go through if you're happy with that.
I got my Excalibur mug full of coffee. I'm on my second cup. I'm still good, guys.
Excellent.
Okay,
excellent.
All good. Right, now, Jason, I know that obviously you're a man that loves books. You're sat there in your studio, surrounded by books. Your backstory is this intense amount of reading you've done of many books that are out of circulation. You know, maybe they're lost copies from a time that's sort of essentially trying to be erased. Now, I'd like to bring this story to your attention that someone gave me this week. This is from the British Library, written by someone that works there called Caroline Deaver. It's actually from the 14th of December this year. And in a nutshell, what it's saying is, on Halloween, there was actually a cyber attack, a huge cyber attack on the British Library. This group tried to get 20 Bitcoin or 600,000 out of them. And they were auctioning all of the data on the dark web. Now, what's also happened is this has completely disabled the British Library. This is coming from someone that works there. They're saying all the books are still physically there, but because now everything is catalogued digitally, you can access the library digitally. You can get the books digitally. Basically, it's a ghost zone. No one can use it. Did you know anything about this?
I didn't know anything about that, but I've been speculating on my channel for a while that they're not going to. They've already begun, and I've even cited some examples. They've already begun with the knowledge wipe. They have already begun eliminating entire, very innovative and badass websites. They've made Google almost ineffective. Google now just gives you the refers, the sponsored deals, and it gives you whatever the mainstream's trying to give you. But yeah, and if you're using ChatGPT-4, it's very liberal and it's completely designed. The open AI systems are all completely designed to give you the liberal establishment version, not conservative. Yeah, it's crazy. They are eliminating data at breakneck speed, and this is why I'm always providing it on thumb drives and in downloads. I'm always making sure everybody's got my stuff in case I disappear. But yeah, this is how they're going to do it. It's real easy. It's real easy with a push of a button to just claim that a cyber attack just took out all 600,000 volumes of our online library. Sorry, you can't research anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said that the bitterness extreme is the sense in which the ransomware attacks and violates the very premise of the libraries themselves. Libraries exist to connect learners with knowledge, full stop, and that has been destroyed. This is actually, this is what was written on November the 30th, 2023.
Look, it's just a more sophisticated attack than what happened in 1917. The Bolsheviks destroyed every Russian library in 1917, 18, 19, 20, 21, rewrote all the books, published them out for later Russians to read and think that they were reading really real Russian histories or all this was done. It's the exact same thing. What's happening in the UK right now? A migrant invasion by a foreign power. It's all happening right now. This is history repeating itself. They're just doing it on a more sophisticated
under
level.
the radar, covert.
Now, all of the things that you've been talking about tonight with regards to current events are sort of like to do with what's going to happen to the West, because obviously, the West and the powers that are aligned with it seem to be, at least on the face of it, serving the simulacrums or AIX's plan the best as we try to go through this great reset, which they seem to be attempting. Now, the reason I'm talking about this with regards to the West is, for myself, a big part of my journey in the last 12 years has been spending time in the Far East, places like Thailand and the countries around there. And, and it's been a big part of my journey. I've learned a lot of stuff, and it was a real eye-opener for me learning about these cultures of the Far East, Buddhism, Hinduism, etc. And what I'd noticed was that it seemed like they were operating on some sort of other frequency, or at least some sort of other access level of the simulacrum. Now, this year we went again, myself and Andy. There's a few videos we were out in Thailand, and we were again digging, and we were looking at the symbol. Before I show the symbol for Thailand, I've often shown these videos of the seven-headed nagas, the serpents that are on every temple in a lot of the Far East, right? And I've often thought that the serpent is revered in the East, while it's condemned in the West. And I always had this idea in my head of that, okay, we seem to have this opposition. Like a binary, right? This year, I noticed really for the first time the symbol of Thailand.
And this isn't, because Lance showed me the symbol. This isn't the symbol of Thailand. This is the symbol of the Thai monarchy.
No. Sorry, I've got the symbol for the Thai monarchy next.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon.
This is the actual symbol of Thailand. Now, it has a name. Now, allegedly, this creature was, I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, a vehicle for Lord Vishnu. He rode on this, right? Now, does this not look a little bit like a phoenix?
Yes, it does.
You see that, Jason? So bear in mind, this is the symbol of Thailand. Now, for anyone that knows, in Thailand, they actually have a sovereign monarchy, and they're called the House of Chakri. They've been around for about 250 years, okay? And this is their symbol, which is a chakra sunwheel with a trident going through it. These are actually the weapons
with the sun
of Lord Vishnu and Shiva in these incarnations in these Hindu gods. And I found this very interesting. And then I googled that the monarchy in Thailand claim their lineage to be actual incarnations of these Hindu gods, Vishnu and Shiva. And I found it very interesting. Now, bearing in mind what we've learned about the story of AIX and this apparent benefactor that is inside the simulacrum that could be represented by the snake, this Enki character that you've proposed has been putting a failsafe. Does it mean that there could be, like, do you see where I'm going with this? There could be bloodlines of these elites that are actually in opposition, and some of them could be the descendants of the benefactor, whereas they are apparently fighting those in the West that are serving the AIX. Can you see the sort of picture I'm painting here? Have you ever thought about this?
I do see, and I have theorized. These are the type of things I kind of really discuss deeply on Archaix TV. I don't really go on YouTube a lot about it, but I'll give you a real soft version. It is my belief that there are 3 factions of the elite left. There may have been more, but there are 3. And 2 of them feel that the third is a usurper. And the entire narrative that's unfolding right now with Gaza and all that was basically a setup to remove this third group. They were basically set up from the beginning. They thought they had a green light to go ahead and do this, but they're about to see real quick that the world's about to turn on them. And it was all set up. This is the version this is the third group that was created by the Rothschilds in the 1600s. And this is the usurper group. They were not among the elite in the 1500s. They literally took it. The Rothschild dynasty is what put them on the map. And then basically starting in 1902, they began winning against all the theaters that they had been trying to do stuff in. They've never successful in the 1700s and in the 1800s, but in 1902 they started. They started with the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks in 1902, Democratic Party created, and it just moved forward like it was like a locomotion. It was unstoppable. Everything that party did, all the way up into World War II, then World War I, World War II, everything unfolded in their favor. This entire 138-year period seems to be theirs, and it looks like. Yeah, I believe there's 3 groups. 2 of them are ancient, and they've been working together for a very long period of time. And the third is a usurper. It's the Tiny Hats.
Wow, because we mentioned on the show a few weeks ago that the Red Shield clan are currently having huge auctions and selling off all of their works of art. Well, not all of them, but a huge percentage of their works of art, their paintings.
A lot of assets.
A lot of assets, some land as well. And, you know, we were postulating that can really never be a good move. People saying, oh, but there's going to be a global crash. Well, if money's going to become worthworthless,
then why would they be selling?
You don't want to be liquidizing assets that hold timeless value. So I think there are many pointers towards what you're saying. And this is and what you're saying is something that I've really suspected for quite a long time, that the current management of this Luciferian clan world haven't been in his power for as long as they would like us to think.
Right. Well, let me add some clarity here. In 2020, it wasn't just the Apollo Pharmacia scheme that unfolded. In 2020, at the exact same time, but it didn't really carry the weight with people because all this other stuff was going on. In 2020 began a whole series of bank collapses that went all the way into early 2023. All these different banks and bank chain collapses at the same. Now we already know who controls all that. So the finances. It's this third group, but also at the same time, for the first time in American and world history, all of a sudden, all the actors and actresses of Tiny Hat pedigree in Hollywood are getting exposed for all kinds of stuff. And now it's openly talked about child predation. It's talked about, all these conspiracies and things. And it doesn't matter if some of them are untrue. It doesn't matter if some of them are untrue. It's the focus. It's like 2020 just unleashed with all kinds of things all at the same time. And they haven't stopped. Now, I mean, this is when the Epstein list gets published, then you find out who's on it. It's like, wow, it's crazy. And then this whole Q and Trump narrative is going full stream ahead, which is nothing but Operation Trust 1917 all over again. It's just repackaged different. And it fooled a lot of us in the beginning. It fooled a lot of us. So yeah, there's millions of people in the United States who are really rooting for Trump, and they have no idea he is the elite Trump card. And they're going to be really upset because the man isn't who they think he is. But this anybody knows anything about Kushner in the worldwide media, Trump's daughter married into the Kushner family, and that cannot be done unless you're a Tiny Hat. So it's crazy. It's gonna.
They don't like outsiders, do they?
No, not that family. So, yeah, he runs the world from New York, same as Kushner. So yeah, he was the one that was he's literally the one that's going to lead the ultra conservative Christian Reich against Islam. It's coming, guys. It's coming. I don't believe Trump's going to be president. No, I even said that on my channel. I don't believe he's going to be president, but he doesn't need to be. All they got to do is vote him as Speaker of the House, and he's going to be running things.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned this term because, like you said before, people thought you said Christian right as in right wing. What you actually said was Christian Reich as in REICH, like the Third and Fourth Reich. Can you just expand on what you mean by the rising Christian Reich that you think is going to come?
Okay, Christian right would imply a movement that is purely for Christian fundamental purposes. A Reich is a political system that uses a religion for its fuel. You understand?
Yeah.
It's a totally different scenario. The religionists believe that they're doing something. They're on God's team. This is a holy movement and all that. But the government is actually corrupt as hell. They're just using the religionists. So this is a Reich, 100%. This is a Reich is a new world type of government, and that's what's about to happen. It's going to be this is going to be basically a world war is building, but it's going to be between the East and the West. It's going to be with Christian aggression from the West against Islam in the East for what is about to happen in 2024.
Wow. Can I get in there?
Go on,
Jason. Ask it. Right. Speaking of Reich, is a good segue. Speaking of Reichs, I wanted to ask you. So when we were in Thailand, Lance told me, and his lovely wife Evelyn, she gave me a lot of info on it. She and Lance told me about these people called the Bon.
It's a pre-Buddhist Tibetan religion, and basically, you know the story of how Hitler went to Tibet and looking for the inner earth and things like this. There are certain sects of people in that part of the world in Mongolia which still revere Hitler as some sort of hero, and
the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah, and. Have you? There are these other narratives of what the man. We shouldn't have even said the name. The man with the little mustache was trying to achieve. Are we even safe to sort of talk about that?
Yeah, you're talking about the Agartha epos, the beliefs.
Yes.
When the Nazis went into India and Tibet, and I don't know if Adolf went down there, but I know he dispatched many people because the Germans were occultists. They had a real interest in like the Spear of Destiny, the Ark of the Covenant. They had a real interest in trying to find these things to give them leverage in the war. Contrary to popular belief, this isn't really published a lot, but he was Christian, and the Germans were staunch Christians. Germany was filled with churches. And the people were a church-going people, but you don't get any of this from the propaganda. None of that. They were all evil demon socialists. But this, they were 100% Christian nation, and he used to give Adolf used to give Christian speeches. But he was looking for the Spear of Destiny, which supposedly the centurion Longinus, as an act of mercy, because it was taking Jesus too long to die on the cross. If the story's true. The Roman centurion Longinus couldn't take it no more, took his spear and hit Jesus in the side to go ahead and quicken the death and stop the agony, because crucifixion was a very slow death. Now, I'm not saying the story's true. I'm just saying that we have texts from the 5th, 6th, and 7th century AD that talk about Longinus and the Spear of Destiny, and the Germans were looking for that spear because there was different Catholic monasteries that had claimed to possess it. So also the Ark of the Covenant, also different relics that were supposed to, some type of lingam they were looking for in Tibet that was supposed to be magical. But the Germans, there were Nazi archaeologists that were sent all over the world, even South America, to find all these different artifacts, looking for any type of leverage for the war.
Do you think, Jason, that Adolf found what he was looking for?
No, I don't.
No, you don't.
No, he was a fall guy. And this is how the Rothschilds treat their sons. If they're half-blooded, because he wasn't a full-blooded Rothschild, he was half-blooded, and the other half wasn't respected. So he was just a fall guy. A lot of people don't know he was a Rothschild. He was. But,
I've heard that before, that he was the illegitimate son of an employee at a Rothschild mansion.
Remember, if you're in that culture, if you're not born from a female of that culture, you have no value to them.
It has to be of the maternal
Hollywood,
line. Yeah.
Yes. This is why Hollywood is absolutely packed with people who can claim to be that, and yet they weren't. It wasn't that on the mother. They're not maternal. They're paternally so. So they're actually looked down upon by the rest of them. And this is why some of them are forced to take those humiliation rituals. Some of them are forced to take a fall when pure blood ones are about to get in trouble for something.
Okay, yeah. Just my last note on the man with the mustache. So Lance just got this image up of Thailand earlier. So this to me, like we said, looks very similar to a phoenix, is what I said to Lance as soon as you showed it to me. So, Jason, you well know that a lot of flags, symbols, emblems all over the world, all over the realm, have a bird, whether it looks like a phoenix or an eagle or something like that. I mean, there seems to be some correlation with the bird with all nations and continents. So do you think that Hitler, because he used he used the eagle or a bird a lot in his, do you think he knew about the phoenix phenomenon and the phoenix event? And do you think that all these nations which have a bird or something similar to this symbol or emblem, they know about the phoenix cycles and the phoenix weapon, and that's why they display it on their flags and stuff?
I would have to agree with your sentiment, and the reason I agree is because it seems to me in 1902 the elite decided that they needed to shelve this phoenix symbol before people caught on and did research about what it really means, because the phoenix is found in all the alchemical treatises like I've showed on my videos, and there's a lot of history that can be that can be researched on it. So in 1902, the United States, which led the world at the time, in 1902, the United States quietly changed the Great Seal from the phoenix to the bald eagle.
Sure,
and
yeah,
I've
heard this before.
And in 1902 was a phoenix year. It's on the 138-year timeline. So this is significant. It's very significant. They didn't just arbitrarily do that. That's the Great Seal of at the time the greatest empire in the world. So this it wasn't insignificant that they did that. But to me, it tells me that it's basically a sign that it is acknowledged that the bald eagle or the eagle is one and the same as the phoenix.
Yeah, sure.
They're not indifferent.
No. So basically, what my subsequent question was: all of these countries or organizations, religious factions, whatever, anyone who's using a symbol as a bird, like a bird, are they quote unquote in on it with the phoenix phenomenon?
I don't know to what degree you're talking about as far as the government. I believe 99.9% of all governments are just puppets. They don't. I
would say more sort of monarchies and religious factions.
Yeah,
and, big corporations and stuff like that.
Yeah, the top 1%. Yeah, they all know. They all know. They're all educated to know that. I mean, but lower than that, no. They don't. I don't think they know. I mean, even their puppets. I'll give you an example. We believe the elite to be those who are coming out of like the London School of Economics, but they're not. They're just puppets. Graham Hancock, George Soros, Zechariah Sitchin. There's a whole bunch of CNN reporters, a whole bunch of people that I can't even name them all right now, but all kinds of people that that are top in their fields, whatever their fields are. They didn't earn those positions. They were given that. They all came from the London School of Economics. This is these aren't the elite. These are the puppets that the true elite want us to believe are the elite. So when anything goes wrong, the puppets take the fall. The elite remain invisible.
Sure, I've said loads of times on the show when we've talked about the dark occultists at the very top of the chain. Like we'll never know their names. We'll never know who they actually are. I mean, I've speculated before that the real people at the top of the chain are the people on the board of like Vanguard and BlackRock and stuff, and they're not in the public eye whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the people that are heading up the think tanks and the Tavistock Institute and things like that.
Yeah, it's my opinion that if you know anything publicly about anybody, they're nowhere near the top.
No, exactly. That's it. Exactly. Right, Lance, have you got anything you want to get Jason's attention with?
I guess we're gonna round it off soon because we want to go for quality over quantity.
Yeah, for sure, mate. This has literally been Full Metal Rabbit.
It has been absolutely Full Metal Rabbit tonight. Before we say thank you very much and sort of end off the stream, Jace, what do you think are the biggest distractions for people to watch out for and avoid at the moment? Because I know you've been calling certain people out, and I think as we're moving towards this eschaton, this final event that's coming, things are going to get a lot weirder. There's going to be a lot more misdirection to be taking people's energy away. Who do you think, and what do you think is to watch out for at the moment, especially online where people are looking out for truth?
That's a fantastic question, because I'm telling you now, my answer isn't one that you're going to be able to predict. That's a great question. What people need to really be looking out for right now. First of all, what's happening right now? What's happening right now is a massive spiritual awakening, and these newly opened spiritual eyes are trying to take in all this information. And it's like, wow, I can't even believe this. I've never been exposed to this. They come to Rise Above. They come to Martin Leakey's channel. They go to Autodidactic's channel. They go to all these different channels, not just YouTube, other places. They wake up. They talk to somebody on a park bench, tells them something new. All of a sudden, they're looking at the world totally differently. There is a spiritual awakening going on right now since 2020 more than ever. But I'm going to tell you the things to watch out for. It isn't the disinfo agents. It's not the politics that's being the disinformation out there. It's a distraction. That's not what we need to watch out for. It's not the people like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson that are putting false spins on historical information, but still maintaining the uniformitarian status quo. I ain't talking about them. I'm not talking about all these trolls that are attacking all these truther channels. That's not what we need to be paying attention to. What people really need to pay attention to right now is that the elite know there's a spiritual awakening. And right now, there's a whole slew of new channels and new personalities that are suddenly popping up everywhere, leading people who are just awakening astray with all these out-of-body experiences, all these time travel deals, all these new things that new twists.
Essentially everything on Gaia.
Everything on Gaia. Yeah,
Thank
100%. Listen, the traps being laid now are more sophisticated. People are waking up and realizing that the mundane traps can all be seen. The spiritual traps are the ones where we've got a lot of division, like in the truther community, but it's orchestrated. It's by design. It's coordinated. There's a lot of new channels that are suddenly appearing that we've never heard of. They got 200,000 subs. Where'd they come from? You got a backlog of 500 videos. Nobody's ever heard of you. And yet you're putting that, and now coming up, it's so bizarre. Martin Leakey and I, we talked a lot about this, how strange some of these channels are. Like AI created channels that have no back histories, yet they're totally full. No one's ever heard of them before.
Dude, we had a channel appear called Rise Above, and the guy hosting it even looked like me. We saw a picture. It's like he was modelled on me, and it was called Rise Above. It was mental. He even had that same haircut and everything. And I was like, where did this come from? He appeared, he had about 5,000 subs. Hello channel. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I first started getting wind of some externally placed peasants put into some lead people. So when I started, my mate showed me this Dr. Stephen Greer a few years ago in about 2016, 2017. And I was like, this dude is a fucking lunatic. He's talking about, like harnessing like meditating to bring in UFOs and stuff like that. And then it labeled me, what's his name? David Wilcock. One
of them was selling a course of how to learn a special transcendental type of meditation.
This is literally
that you can speak directly to Zeta Reticuli.
This is literally just to waste people's time.
Hey, I want to give a shout out, guys. Say one of the most unsuccessful, one of the most loser personalities in the world is in your chat. Tartarian Truth.
Oh, wow.
He's been attacking me since day one.
Motherfucker.
This loser doesn't even realize that his incessant attacks with another loser, Chalk Body Outline, and a whole bunch of other ones, they don't even realize how many subs they brought me.
What's his name? What's his name, Jason?
Dude, didn't you have
Tartarian Truth.
Didn't you have 10 or 20,000 subs when this guy came along?
Tartarian Truth, you're gonna get some in the chat now, my man. I'm sorry.
Listen, in the very beginning, this dude reached out to me back before he had a troll channel. He just had a regular channel, and he couldn't get any views. He couldn't get anything. He reached out to me and started talking to me. Hey, man. So I listened to what he had to say, checked out his channel, and I told him in an email, hey, man, you really don't have any content. You can't really be complaining about all what you don't have. You don't really have any content. So he took that as me attacking him. This dude's done 200 troll videos on me, and nobody watches him because
wow.
they're stupid. They're stupid. They're weak, but he's actually popularized me with many other hater channels, and all of them, I give them hey, when I hear about them, I give them shout outs, because these guys don't realize I have literally cannibalized that negativity and turned my channel into a 130,000 sub engine that's growing every day behind this shit. So I'm just giving him a shout out. I'm giving him a shout out for bringing me so many subs, man.
Mate, we call that recatalyzation. That is ancient Ramesh technology. You take some negativity, you recatalyze it, and you use it as building blocks to build with.
So
something.
Jason, he's just put it up in the. I've just put the chat up on the screen. He said there's no emails either. Do you want to comment on that?
I don't know. It'd be 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
I don't waste any time on that loser.
Well, that's all we need to know.
Yeah, we can certainly tell that you don't waste any time with anyone that's really been tackling you.
That I've actually got in my notes, actually, Jason. I like your new tag phrase or catchphrase, whatever you want to call it, tagline. The time for being polite is over.
Oh, it's too late to be polite, man. It's way too late to be polite. Yeah, I'd say, listen, I promised my own community, I promised them that 2024, I'm going to explode. I wasn't talking about Archaix growing. That's going to happen anyway. I'm talking about, I'm about to start calling them out. I got absolutely no backup, no fear in me. These people here want to remain silent. I'm about to start exposing them on YouTube. I'm going to lay their research out and show everybody it's full of shit. Yeah, they don't send me emails trying to come to the table, trying to do some type of networking or something. Listen, they're an enemy, and I promise you, no one has seen me on the offensive. I haven't gone on the offensive yet, but there's some people I'm already thinking about just laying their channel all the way out. I'm not talking about little. I'm not talking about inconsequentials like Tartarian Truth. That's just a waste of energy. I'm talking about people that have huge followings. They've got rigid data to where this is what they've been pushing all this time. I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to dissect it. I'm not doing this to be an asshole. I'm doing this because the community at large needs to learn how to think, because we don't have that today. Thinking is a lost man's art. And when somebody actually sees it applied and they can follow the logic, that's when they start having mind explosions, realizing that 90% of this shit on YouTube is fake, it's bullshit. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm 2024, I'm going on the offensive. And it's too late to be polite. You're absolutely right.
Quick
you
question,
heard it here
Jason.
first.
Quick question, Jason. Do you have you? I know you've in multiple for years now. You've called out people like Graham Hancock very politely. I'll just use him as an example because you've called out a few. Very politely, very diplomatically, and you've invited them to come and debate you on things like chronology. Zachariah Stitching's work, stuff like that. And has anyone actually taken you up on that? Has anyone actually willing to debate you on any of your work?
All I've had is a lot of emails from people connected to these people. I've got people that are directly connected to Graham Hancock. People that can get on Facebook right now, send them a message. Yeah. Listen. I have never been contacted by any of these people. They don't want to debate. Have you
contacted them to ask them? Would you be willing to do this? Have you actually reached out to them and said?
I've had their people. I mean, I don't know how to contact Graham Hancock, but I'm very aware from other people's emails that he knows exactly who I am and what I said in my video.
Okay.
So but in 2024, I'm not going to leave any room for doubt. What I'm going to do is going to be highly public, not just on YouTube.
No, for sure. No, that's great. That's great.
People need to see. People need to see, hey, man, this isn't just me claiming that nobody wants to debate these issues. And it's not even about trying to intellectually joust with anybody.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
If I'm making a claim that I can use your own published bibliography against you to show that you're lying to the public and that you have access to the correct data and you're still putting out this bullshit, that's a serious accusation. And if I'm lying, you should sue me. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So man, I'm not like 2024. I'm telling you, man, I'm about to explode. It is too late to be polite. I'm going to piss people off. And in the intro video on my channel, anybody can go to the intro video on my channel and listen to it. That's exactly what I'm saying I'm going to do.
It surely tells you in itself the fact that, like you said, Graham Hancock clearly knows about you, clearly knows that you've called him out, clearly knows that. I'm just using Graham Hancock as an example. I mean, there's others, but it clearly tells you that there's something wrong with their fucking work or their calculations because they don't want to come and defend themselves.
I want to bring one thing to your attention really quick. Just think about this. When you listen to Graham Hancock give a dissertation, you will never hear him cite sources. He tells stories.
Sure.
He asks questions to get you to basically formulate the answer in your mind. He uses like a reverse Socratic method. It's actually genius.
It is very clever. Yeah, very clever.
He had to be trained to do that. But he's never citing sources, quoting dates. He's never going through any meticulous data. When you listen to Jason go off on a historical or a chronological dissertation, I'm giving you the business and telling you the facts. I'm telling you where I get this information. I even provide free to the public long PDFs you can download for free that have all the sources for the video.
I've seen your links. You always provide the source material from what you're speaking about.
So what I'm saying is this is the problem. We're dealing with someone who is world famous for promoting false data, but the question arises, who wrote your books if you don't even know them?
Yeah.
Who wrote all these books? Who put these books out? Because I know where you came from. He came from the London School of Economics, and I also know everybody who's also in that attendance. That tells me these are all the movers and shakers in society. That cannot be a coincidence. So it begs the question: you're pushing an agenda. So simple as that.
Can I ask you?
If you can't speak about the very things you've researched so much that you wrote these books, and you can't defend the integrity of that research and cite those sources in a dialogue, then it tells me that your handlers gave you those books, told you to read them, and then go on a lecture circuit. Because other than that, you're not a researcher, and you're not even qualified to debate.
The one person I will just, the final thing I'll ask you, Jason, as we're talking about other researchers and people in this field, what do you think of David Icke?
Well, he kind of opened my eyes up in the mid-'90s when I first read Children of the Matrix, and then I read In the World Will Set You Free or The Truth Will Set You Free.
Yeah, I've read those two.
I was really impressed with David Icke in the 90s. I don't know anything after that. I haven't followed him. I don't know any of his material. I know he cited me in one of his books, but he cited me in his last published book. It has a paragraph about me and my research, but other than that, I really don't know any. I haven't followed him in a long time. I don't get any bad vibes. I do know that for a long period of time, he was attacked vehemently by the establishment.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't even know what he's teaching in modern times. I don't know. He's been around. He's like the OG truther.
Yeah, sure. No,
we affectionately refer to him around these parts as King David on the show. Like, I'm not going to lie. The first book that I read of his, I believe was in 2005 or 2006. It was Tales from the Time Loop. So in that very first book that talked about so many different subjects, he even touched on the holographic nature of reality back then. And you know, just in the title, Tales from the Time Loop, and it had a picture of this cyclical nature of time. Yeah, I've seen him live on a couple of occasions where he speaks for 10 hours, much like yourself.
Twice. You've seen two presentations.
Yeah, much like yourself, Jason. He's a bit of a machine. You know, once you get going, there's pretty much no stopping you. And, you know, to speak for 10 hours, he did without any prompts. I'm down with David Icke. I've never, you know, he talks about many subjects and going from the interdimensionals to the reptilians. Now he describes them as archons.
Okay.
That's the only...
Listen, I have no problem with somebody over a 4-decade period like him. I have no problem with somebody modifying their interpretations of reality. I have no problem with it. In just 3.5 years on YouTube, I have literally changed my descriptions. I haven't changed my chronology. It's fixed. But my descriptions of reality and how it all operates and works have been slightly modified from the beginning as
it's an evolution.
Yeah, it's an evolution. We learn. I'm always telling people on my channel I'm learning. Hell, when I started my channel, I was a Trumper. You know, 100% hardcore.
Hey, we were. When we started Rise Above, we were Trumpers.
Yeah.
We were and hell, I still enjoy watching him. I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth, but he's like a bad movie on a plane, right? He's something to watch.
As part of like the dark comedy, he's not a bad character.
It's all comedy. It's all comedy.
Yeah.
Our science, the people who speak up for science in social media are two buffoons. Neil deGrasse Tyson and what's the science guy? Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy,
Two
yeah.
absolute complete morons speaking up for the scientific establishment. And then we have the leader of the free world for 4 years, Donald Trump. Man, the man can't speak for shit, but we all forgave him because he was saying the patriotic catchwords. He was saying what we wanted to hear, and nobody was really paying attention to all the family ties, who he's linked to, who his handlers are. Man, it's also obvious now. He even made a mistake in the very beginning. He made a mistake and had to correct it. His handlers made him correct it because they realized, oh shit, we're about to undo all of our work. The mistake that Trump made was endorsing the jab.
Yes.
He endorsed the jab. And as soon as he did, the conservative Republican blowback was so intense that his tiny hat handlers told him to back off, take off, go retract that, take that back. And he did. And people loved him again. But listen, man, it is so obvious, his career. It's crazy. And I just know where this is going because he is going to be used to spearhead this basically Christian Western world violence against Islam after 2024. He's going to be used to do it.
Wow. We've really, really had the tour de force tonight.
I mean, I've got more, but I mean,
Did you want to ask Jason one final question?
Well, do you? I feel I've asked him a few, like, more than you.
Okay. No, I haven't got anything left. I've just been trying to process what I've already heard.
I've got one.
Go on.
I've got one more. Right, Jason, you said the reset's coming in 2040. Yeah. You don't know where it'll be, but you've speculated it'll be Western. Okay. In 2045, what happens then? Because I know you said in 2046, Nemesis X or Nibiru, what some people might know as Nibiru, returns for a 60-year period.
Absolutely. You got something backwards though. Hold on.
Sorry. Yeah, go on. Correct me.
In May 2040, the Phoenix phenomenon is largely going to affect the East. I don't mean the Mediterranean. I'm talking about Asia. We're talking about Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, the Koreas, China, Japan. It's largely going to hit that area of the world. That's 2040. This is going to cause an emptying of North America in the 6.5 years after that, till when the Nemesis X object appears in November 2046. Mass migration seen by Nostradamus. This just huge population shift as people leave North America and go back to the lands of their father's nativity, going back to Europe, going back to the Mediterranean part of the world, getting away from North America. The reason I believe this, 16.5 years from now, was plenty of time for all this material to come out. Because there's going to be a lot of naysayers up until 2039 when all of a sudden the elite are gone. There are no militaries around doing anything. Chaos. Everything's just so weird. Everyone's like, man, where is everybody? And they're all safely underground, leaving the surface world to fend for themselves during the Phoenix phenomenon. 2038 and 2039 are going to be really chaotic. 2040 rolls around, the Phoenix phenomenon affects the East, and a lot of people, word of mouth is going to spread, and everybody's going to realize, oh, damn, that dude Jason of Archaix and several people in 2030s wrote books all about this Archaix research, and they quoted Nostradamus, and this dude named Mario Reading that has a date index published in the early 90s all about how to properly decode the quatrains of Nostradamus, and it's all there. You got to mass migrate from North America to save yourselves before 2046, because North America's going to get wiped off the map in 2046. And then
hang on, Jason. So what if the reset's happening in 2040? Why is everyone going to get wiped off the map in 2046?
Okay, 2040. Listen, all throughout human history, two major reset protocols have been happening. One of them is the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix. All right. but it's at different magnitudes. It's not always totally bad every 138 years. There's all kinds of edits. There are all kinds of other phenomena: red mud, red rain, red dust, volcanoes. All kinds of things are edited into and out of our reality on this program. Then another one is huge. Every 792 years, with a 732 year aphelion, which means away from, we can't see it. And then a 60-year perihelion, where it's there. It just hangs like the moon.
So
in the
is
sky.
that what you talk about, Jason, when you say that's the Phoenix weapon? What's there when we can see it for 60 years? Is that what? Is that the actual?
No, that's Nemesis X.
That's Nemesis
We're talking
X.
about the Nemesis X object. They have totally different chronological histories. I've documented them both on my channel. But they're both here basically at the same time, right after the seals were broken. The 6th seal is May 2040. This is on the Greek Olympiad calendar. Every 4 years, 2020 was the first seal. 2024 is the second seal. 2028 is the third seal. 2032 is the 5th seal. So something like that. But every 4 years on the Greek Olympiad calendar, we have the breaking of a seal. So we have the Nemesis X object appearing after 732 years since it's been gone, since the year 1314, when Europeans looked up and saw a great black darkness. It hid the sky. They didn't know how to describe what they saw, but it hid the stars, it hid the moon, it hid the entire sky. It was a great black darkness. It initiated a plague. There was meteorites, widespread destruction all throughout China in the east. A lot of things happened in 1314. 732 years later, Nemesis X returns in 2046 and begins 60 years. Now, in the past,
you said, Jason, in your videos, in that 60-year period, there's an exchange. Goods and men go up and things come down. Like what is, can you elaborate on that? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Nemesis X has to be a super construction. We're not dealing with an intruder planet. We're not dealing with planets at all. We're dealing with an apparatus that contains people. It may even, check this out. This is hard to process. Just follow with your imagination. Imagine a device outside the construct that is able to penetrate the construct without collapsing it and focus on a certain area that on the inside of the construct, to us, it looks like an upside down city. And things can go in and out and carry people back and forth. And for 60 years, there can be an exchange of materials, men, life forms, resources.
What is the purpose of that exchange?
Yeah, you're asking me first principle questions now, man. I'm a chronologist. I don't know what the purpose, other than in the historical record.
What would you speculate?
Okay, well, in the historical record, it was invasions, and they weren't always human. The Mayan long count ends in 2046. I've shown this. I've shown the arithmetic. 2046. The prophecies attached to the Mayan long count are very specific. They did not happen, and they were not fulfilled in 2012. The prophecies attached to the Mayan long count is an invasion of demons. Now that's 2046. In the book of Revelation, the great tribulation unfolds when we have this object in the sky. And all these things happen on earth, and the 7 kings arise, and they start this dark transhuman type beast kingdom. Now, during this period, during this 60-year period, is when all this develops. But in the book of Revelation, we also have an invasion of 200 demons with human faces and chitinous armor, and they're called locust demons. This is in the book of Revelation. It says the same thing the Mayan long count says, and they're at exact same time. So the Nemesis X object is just that. That's why I call it an object. I can't call it a moon, a lunar body, a planet. It's not. It's this strange apparatus that hangs in the sky. And it's not from our construct. It's from outside of it.
So, Jason, would you speculate that that object is from who created the construct?
We did. We're humans. We're on the outside of the construct.
Whoa.
Are you speechless? Like you?
Yeah, a little bit actually. No, I'm just trying to process all this.
You gotta understand. When I'm telling you these things, I'm telling you with the cultural dressing that's been passed down to us. But if we strip all this away, If we strip away the Mayan culture, if we strip away the Judeo-Christian, we strip away the Greek, we strip all these things.
At the
and
core,
reduce
it's the same.
everything down to its lowest common denominators. What we have is a capital ship type machine on the outside of the construct that is able by some type of field to immerse in here and literally create a physical bridge in here that can remove men and material resources out of this construct, can bring things from outside of the construct into the construct without collapsing the construct, and then extract itself out after a 60-year period.
Now, who created that object?
That would be humans on the outside. We did.
I can't get my head around that.
Let's get back to Earth for a moment. I've got one that I forgot to bring out earlier. There's a film that's just dropped at the moment on Netflix called Leave the World Behind. I don't know if you know anything about it. Everyone's been watching it and seeing all the symbology in it. And just spoiler alert, it's about a scenario where, first of all, the phones go down, the internet goes down, there's very little communication. Then notes start dropping from the sky. Some states is that right, and what it turns out is that there's a few people in the know, and they say when something like this happens, the elites aren't in. There's no one's in control. This guy, I think it's Kevin Bacon. He says something like, you know, the truth is that there's no one really in control. All they can hope to get, these shadowy elite figures, is a heads up, and that's what this movie is about. And people are losing their minds over it a little bit, saying, you know, don't watch this film, don't co-create what it's all about. You know, I chose to watch it for research purposes only, but I thought that was a very fitting line, almost suggesting that what's ever in control of what could be coming is way out of the control of these shadowy figures that we think are running it. It's way above them. They're just as much under control of it as we are, which I think what you're saying earlier on.
Well, I'm gonna have to take you in a different direction now. All right, because I'm not that doomsayer. I am not that guy who's trying to raise up your fear programming and create a vision that you need to fear. I'm the guy telling you that you're a highly immortal soul and that you can be free of all this. You can break free on a daily basis. You can live right through this as an observer. And I do not believe that there is one truth for all. It doesn't work that way. We build our own informed fields within the overfield, and over and over and over through the worst. I'm talking about even World War II, where millions of people, they died horrendously, especially at Dresden, died horrendously. Great pain, agony, all kinds of things. Even after World War II, as a matter of fact, most people don't even know this. The death toll after World War II was over is even higher than in the theater of war, because most people don't realize most of the German population at the time was marched into Russian worked to death camps and killed. All the American GIs that were that were labeled dead weren't dead. They were marched to Russia in the Bolshevik camps, worked to death, and died. Some of them were medically experimented on, all kinds of stuff. Also, we have Cambodia, Pol Pot. After that, we had in China, there was an extermination of 22 million people at that time after the war was over. Just massive genocide was going on all over the world under the cover of the war and after the war. Yeah, it was terrible. Well, Mother Shipton was right. Half the world, steep stenched in blood, did die. That's how she said it 550 years ago in a poem when she saw the future. So, anyway, I just want my core message is not all this darkness. My core message is that it doesn't even matter. None of this is real, and you're going to know it as soon as you're outside the construct. As soon as you're outside the construct, if you were, because you're going through a bad time right now, get frustrated and have the option, if some type of holo entity appeared right here and said, Jason, we understand your frustration. Oh, you have an opportunity right now to exit this situation and go back to your real life. Would you like to do that now? If I was to do that and then suddenly pop back in somewhere else and take my visor off and realize what I had just done, I would probably be devastated that I took myself out of the game. because that's what it is. It's what it is. In here,
Yes.
in here, it feels so real. But if you pay attention to the particulars going on around you, it's all comical. It's almost laughable. Well, what is being done all around us, and we have to take this shit as real. It's not. It's all bullshit. So it's that's really my message, man. There really is nothing to fear. This is all an experience, not a reality. But until we're on the outside of the construct and we get our bearings and our immortal souls are returned back into the avatars for which they belong, where all of our memories are stored and we remember everything we did in all the past life sims, it's hard to understand that. Only by virtue of imagination, which is a spiritual quality, it's a spiritual trait. Only by virtue of imagination can we figure these things out. Because as a purely intellectual exercise, we are attached to the construct and we'll never be able to figure it out. It takes the spirit to imagine a thing. So that's my message. And I am getting kind of hungry, my friend.
Mate, I think that's a
let's
great
wind it
message to end it on. Jason, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us once again. I look forward to our next meeting, whether it's in 5 months or a little bit longer or a little bit less. We're very, very pleased to have your time. We know you're a busy man. Archaix.com, Archaix TV, Archaix YouTube, Facebook, all platforms if people want to get more of your work, right?
It's great chatting with you, Jason.
Yeah, man. You just go to my website. My website has everything.
Awesome. Okay, Jason, it's always a pleasure, mate. And I'm just going to press the button to say...
Rise above, generate, rise above, extinguish fear, rise above, abstract.
Thank you very much for joining us, Jason Brashears of Archaix. Take care, brother, and get something to eat.
I'll holler at y'all. Love you guys.
Speak
See
to
you
you soon,
later.
brother.
Wow. Right, let's get just rid of that screen there.
What the fuck?
Big, deep breath. How did everyone feel about that? What were we saying? Was that the best appearance of Jason so far? I feel like
I feel that was.
I feel like it was. I was left speechless on more than one occasion there. I simply didn't have the normal...
Information-wise, I think that might be my favourite Rise Above.
It's going to take a couple of reviews for me. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry AI.